Broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
Hey, this is Daniel Vitalis from SirThrival.com, and you're listening to Justin and Kate on Extreme Health Radio. And I'm just here to remind you to rewild yourself.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. We appreciate it on ExtremeHealthRadio.com, and we have a great guest. Can you not hear us at all?
No.
Really?
Is he plugged in?
Yeah, you're plugged in. Let's see.
Well, we've never had this happen before.
So, Steve, can you do like a 1, 2, 3 count?
1, 2, 3.
Okay, you're coming in nice here.
Okay, so I'm coming in, but I'm just not. I'm just hearing you
through.
Yeah, through your voice.
Okay.
Not in the airport.
Well, you know what we could do is we could take these off. We'll take them off. Yeah, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and there we are. Hello.
Yeah.
Hey.
Just hear each other.
It's a little better.
You know what we need is a producer. To be doing these sound things. And
yeah, man.
I can't figure this out.
Unplugged or what, man?
Well, Steve, I'm so excited to have you on the show. This is awesome. You're saying just before the show that you just got back from 3 months in Australia.
Sydney.
Sydney.
One of my favorite cities in the world.
How awesome. I'm half Australian, so I have family there. I know the area well.
Well, mate, you got to get down under to the land of Oz.
I know. I just minus the accent, but it's...
You'll pick it up quick. Start learning your Australia-isms.
Oh, man. How about their slang? Their slang is crazy.
So funny. They have a very, very funny sense of humor, and I really like the Australians. Mm-hmm. If you check out best cities in the world to live, Melbourne and Sydney always come up in the top 10 best quality of life cities in the world.
Really?
Yeah. Number 1 is always perennially Vienna in Austria.
Really?
Yeah. I visited, but I didn't have enough time to really spend there to really see why it's considered the number 1 highest quality city.
It's a clean city.
And I hate to say it, but no U.S. city makes the top 20.
Top 20 of most desirable places?
Just total quality of life.
Really?
Not even one. I think the first top U.S. city comes up around 23rd, and I believe it was Honolulu. Big city.
Oh, gosh.
Which isn't even all that nice.
Yeah, Honolulu, that's a big city, yeah.
But the only North American cities to make it into the top 20... Vancouver, British Columbia, always rates up there pretty high.
Really?
Montreal and Toronto, I think, are like 14 or something.
Wow.
They're tied. Both are fantastic places. I've stayed in Toronto for an extended period of time. Visited Montreal. But yeah, no U.S. city made it. So quality of life here in the United States, I think, is definitely slipping.
We're I think we're something like 38th in standard of care for medical procedures, and we're also there's in terms of longevity too. I think there's about 30 countries that have a longer lifespan than the United States. Yeah,
I think the for men, the Norwegians are the longest lived people now for men. Really? I think 95.6 years old average lifespan for Norwegian males.
Really?
And for women, I believe it's Okinawa still.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder what it is.
What the hell are we all doing here?
I don't know, because I've been in Norway, and their eating habits aren't exactly
what are they eating?
All that great. Oh, I don't know. They really mix their foods together and just kind of
Kind of weird ways.
Yeah, kind of weird ways.
They're not really food combining all that great.
Nah, and they have this tradition of the midnight table. You know, they have a heavy meal at night, around really late at night. It's kind of interesting. And I think it's just the lack of stress, though. They have a very thriving economy.
And I think they have a clean environment, don't they?
Very clean. You know,
Yeah.
you don't see any pollution.
And they're big people too, right?
They're big. They're strong. They're good-looking people.
Yeah.
You know, they got the classic Nordic features.
Right.
You know, all the girls are really pretty, and all the guys are strapping,
blonde and like
strapping Vikings.
Yeah.
Although I have seen some creeping obesity the last decade I've been traveling there. But you can thank American fast food imports.
Chains
You know?
for coming
Yeah,
in,
McDonald's.
You're
and all
starting to
that.
see that all over the world now.
Yeah.
People taking on American fast food.
You know, when I was in Spain and everywhere in Hungary back in the early 90s, even back then it was McDonald's, KFC, all these restaurants, and the lines were out the door for these places. Even
Really
then.
sad, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like,
I can remember in Tahiti, there was only 2 McDonald's on the island of Tahiti.
really?
Right? And the cars would be lined up literally for a couple kilometers. I mean, literally for the drive-through. Just a huge line of automobiles for the 2 McDonald's on the island.
Where are they getting their beef, I wonder?
Oh.
Well, God knows, man.
God only knows.
Well, I mean, it's a U.S. import, so I imagine any McDonald's franchise probably has all these sources where, the beef probably comes from the basic same place.
And that's a real bummer, because I think that the more we start not outsourcing, but just putting our restaurants and our food and all this stuff around the world. I mean, these places, these people, they've never eaten a diet that's anywhere near.
Nothing with the fast food.
It's not even close to this kind of stuff.
Even Iceland. I visited Iceland for many, many years. I think my first visit was like 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And the Icelandic people they're fairly isolated little island, Great looking people.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting because some of the best looking people,
Uh-huh.
there was, I think, 2 women that won Miss World from the same village in Iceland.
Really?
Yeah. And the guys are all big, strapping Viking kind of guys.
Uh-huh.
But just within the last 10 years, the obesity level with the kids and the people, I didn't see any fat people my first couple trips. But
Really?
over the last decade, I've seen, wow.
A lot of obese.
Yeah, and there's a lot of American fast food. So it's like the worst of America is getting imported to these other places, and it's starting to really undermine the health and the well-being.
And these
of
people's
folks.
like their ancestral diets. I mean, these people have eaten a diet that's different than Americans for millennia, and now all of a sudden we're introducing this weird kind of diet to them. And I mean, who knows what that's going to do to their genetics and future generations? It's just going to alter all that stuff.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Our food is so addictive. It's just terrible.
it's addictive.
Yeah, the problem is it's delicious.
I know. That's the problem.
And they actually do studies to find tastes, and they concoct these tastes that are just irresistible.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get that taste sensation, and you get that little spark of feel-good hormones in the brain. It's like this little reward thing.
Yeah.
And, you do. It's like an addictive process.
Well, it's true. Like, rarely, when do you pass a McDonald's here in America and don't see a line out it's like there's always people at a McDonald's or a Taco Bell. There's lines just lining up 24 hours a day.
Yeah, 24 hours a day. And it's like, I wonder at some point, are people going to... Is the landscape, is the tide going to change for that?
Probably not. Because,
people
a
on
lot
the
of
West and East Coasts.
a lot of people are pretty ignorant when it comes to diet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the medical establishment is going to do anything to help. The medical drug industrial complex, it's all based on drugs to cover up symptoms, and that's huge billions of dollar business. So there's no real incentive to try to improve the health, because
that
it's
makes
too much
sense.
money in making people sick. That sounds pretty cynical. Some people might think I'm a little crazy, but this is extreme health.
Yeah, this is extreme health.
But I've often thought that they're, why do they care? The more sick people get, and the more colds and the flu, and that's just
like
that much more money for vaccines, that much more money for cold and flu remedies in the drugstores. And I mean, it's just this huge business, and I don't see any real incentive, other than people just don't want to feel crappy anymore.
I mean, if it's about money, then I mean, why wouldn't they do what they're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, these restaurants make so much money.
Hey, what do you do for you? You travel a lot because you said you just got back from
Australia.
Sydney, and you did 15 hours, and then you were on Joe Rogan's show for 3 hours, and then Loveline last night answering weird questions from people up till midnight. What do you do when you travel? Do you do anything for your plane flights? Like, how do you make sure you stay?
Well, the first thing I do when for all you travelers out there listening, I discovered that if you set your watch to the current time, wherever you're going, you start to think in the new time zone.
Okay.
Which means that if I have to just force myself to stay awake a little bit, I will.
Okay.
And then, I try to get at least a nap, if nothing else, right about 10 or 11 o'clock of the new time zone, even if it's just a short little nap.
Okay.
And I use the binaural beats. It's I use theta brainwave meditation. But there's also other ones. There's alpha, beta, gamma. Gamma is like the real deep brainwave.
That's hard to get into, right? For on a plane.
A little harder, but these things kind of put you out. You can download them off Amazon or iTunes or whatever. You just look, and there's a whole bunch. There's so many companies out there making these things now.
Which one do you like?
I like the one by Rhonda Byrne. She's the woman that wrote The Secret, based on the teachings of U.A. Anderson, and she also wrote a book called The Magic. It's about expressing daily gratitude.
Okay.
Because what you focus your mind on is pretty much what you get.
Right.
But anyway, she has these binaural beats. It basically there's like a beat in the background of either the words of the music, sometimes the sound of an ocean on these tapes, or sometimes the rain, and your brain will actually try to duplicate the beat that you're hearing.
Okay.
And it will slow down to the point of, like, theta is sort of like that twilight between sleep and wakefulness. It's what experienced meditators get into. So you can meditate like a monk on your first day, with the use of this binaural beats, and get into that very relaxed meditative state. Great time to use positive affirmations, visualization, and you can kind of program the subconscious in this state. But when you come out of it, let's say you do it for an hour, hour and a half, you feel like you had a refreshing sleep. So not that I'm advocating, you don't sleep and try to do this instead. But in times where you can't sleep, it really can make you feel quite refreshed and quite alert.
So that would be pretty cool to do right before you go to sleep, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I will.
You do that? Like you'll just put your
Yeah, or sometimes I'll take a little power nap in the middle of the day and put it on the binaural beats. And they're all different lanes, from anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour.
Really?
I have one that's an hour and a half.
Do you like them a lot?
I like them a lot. I think they're very effective for, keeping the brain sharp.
And weren't you saying on a previous show, maybe it was Rogan or someone else, where there's some sort of, it comes in one ear and then your other ear?
Yeah, some of them use a technique of on one side of the brain, it's a different beat from the other side of the brain. So one ear, it's a different rhythm from, let's say, the right ear.
Okay.
And the brain then will reconfigure the brain waves and try to even both sides out.
That's interesting.
Which puts you in a very, kind of recalibrate.
It seems like it would put you to sleep, like if you...
Well, sometimes I fall asleep.
That would be awesome.
But, sometimes there will be a guided meditation where they're actually making statements, but it affects the subconscious mind. It actually gets into the brain.
What kind of statements? Like positive?
Oh, yeah, there's things for health, money, opulence, wealth, relations, love. I mean, you name it.
You can just sort of play the one that you want.
Yeah, you just kind of play whatever area of your life you feel lacking. But anyway, I do that in the plane, and I always pack my own food.
Okay.
I'll bring raw fruits or raw vegetables sometimes. You know, I try to keep hydrated, and one of the best ways to stay hydrated is raw produce. You know, so fresh fruit is a great way to stay hydrated. And then, I'll have other things, some paleo bars or some other snacky things. I'm not like a strict paleo guy, but the paleo bars are really nice for
there's some
fun.
Good,
some real good nutritious things that keep you very satisfied. And I will eat according to the next time zone, which means that maybe I'll skip a meal.
Sure.
Or, usually if I've just eaten before the trip and the new time zone is showing that I should eat, I'll just fast until the next meal. And just drink water.
And you were just eating.
But then I get on that new eating schedule as quickly as possible.
So I'm sure that's helping regulate your circadian
Starts to
rhythms
regulate your circadian rhythm,
your cycles, and all that stuff.
And then once I get to where I'm going, I will take a walk in the sunlight immediately.
Okay.
Some maybe breathing exercises. Joint mobility, whatever. And this sounds maybe a little gross to some of your listeners, but I will induce a bowel movement if necessary, because your guts get all messed up. The flying dehydrates, can make you quite constipated if you're not careful.
Yeah, I feel jacked up.
Yeah, we've been there.
We actually travel with a little bulb of you just squeeze water into the colon.
Okay.
It's not like a full enema, just like a little fleet enema, just to get the bowel stimulated, so that you're not keeping all the waste up into the gut. So because that can reabsorb and get reabsorbed into the bloodstream.
So you sort of do that when you land, some point after landing.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I get to the hotel or wherever I'm going, occasionally glycerin suppositories.
Okay.
So it's only gay if you like it.
Yeah.
I don't
enjoy it. Yeah.
I don't particularly enjoy it, but it's a necessary evil. Because you got to get the waste out of the system. And sitting in an airplane, like the Sydney flight was almost 14 hours. That was brutal. Now I was getting up a lot, just walking around and stuff, but hey, it's still basically trapped in an airplane for 14 hours, and that does weird stuff to your elimination process.
How about those pilots? Those pilots will turn around in 3 or 4 days, 5 days, and they'll just come back.
Some of these guys have some of the worst health.
Yeah.
I'm working
Isn't their
with
lifespan a lot shorter?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm working with a pilot now that just has horrible health problems. He's totally addicted to fast foods, and he's just putting himself in terrible problem, and the poor guy is suffering a lot. But,
Have you heard of these, have you heard of those PEMF mats? Have you ever heard of those things?
Mm-mm.
It's called Pulse Electromagnetic Field, and they're mats that, I don't know, I've been learning about them recently, but apparently they have something to do with the electromagnetic field from the Earth. And apparently millions of years ago, there was much higher rate of EMF field coming off the Earth.
Sure.
And it somehow duplicates that, and it gets into biofeedback and does all this brain retrainment stuff. And people use it all the time for pain and things like that. But
interesting.
It seems like it would be good for traveling, too.
Well, I'll tell you, walking barefoot in the grass is a great way to do that. You just get the shoes off and walk into the dewy grass in the morning.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's called grounding. So you can kind of, reset the electromagnetic fields in your body. Of course, nowadays with microwaves, radio waves, TV, all the lights and so forth, power lines and all that.
Yeah.
The electromagnetic fields are pretty disrupted. One of the things I do to, I do a lot of phone work, so I use a little electromagnetic.
You're in all the weird stuff.
A little shield on my iPhone, which
I have one of those too.
Yeah.
It helps mitigate some of the electromagnetic fields coming off the phone.
Off the phone, yeah.
And you can feel it's a lot cooler.
Hey, look, we're in good company.
Did you have one
there
too?
we go. You got one too.
See, I've solved my problem. I've never had a phone.
Well,
you just refuse
it's
to go
probably
there.
the best. This is this is called by Cervica, Cervica. A guy in Germany gave it to me, and he has one on his laptop. You can get them for your iPads. You can even get a little shielding device that you can wear, like a piece of jewelry. But since I do use the cell phone a lot and do a lot of phone work, I definitely have a shielding device in the cell phone. So it helps mitigate.
Don't you?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
you know,
you have to have something.
who knows how much damage any of this stuff's doing?
Yeah.
You know, the body's so amazing at adapting and protecting you, all the protective mechanisms, but why unnecessarily expose yourself if you don't have to?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a little precaution.
Help it out a little bit.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, if those don't do anything at all, and we think they do, I wonder if there's some sort of benefit just because we believe that they do.
Well, you know,
there could be something.
I think the placebo power is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You know, there's been cases in dire emergencies where they had to perform surgeries, let's say in the battlefield, where they told the guy that they had given him, a sedative or a drug or whatever, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And it seemed to actually help calm the person down, and they were actually able to do operations, emergency stuff with a guy that actually hadn't received any drugs at all. So, I mean, the mind is a very powerful thing. And, you know, if you believe something, the power of belief is very, very strong.
Yeah, it is.
So, who knows? Certainly these little devices, at the worst, you're wasting a few dollars. At the best, they actually work. So
And
I don't pretend to I really understand the science behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've read what they say, but people say a lot of stuff.
Right.
So
there's a lot of weird stuff going on and people making these claims and stuff. But the way I figure is, why not just get all the devices and hope for the best? You know?
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, all these things are very. I mean, it's almost imperceptible.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So there's such a low level. It's like you're, especially in modern times, you're being hit with this real low level amount of stress all the time. These little stressors, and all these subtle energy bodies. You know, it's not like you really feel anything one way or the other, but you know, everything totaled together, I think, can begin to take a toll on your energy and your mood and.
There was I was telling Kate this the other day, a former UFC fighter was, I think he was Japanese, but his whole family was from the area where the Fukushima thing was going on. And so he'd go over there and do a lot of relief work and stuff like that and helping people. And he brought his Geiger counter, and when he was over there on the Geiger counter, he just turned it on, and the thing just completely spiking all the way beyond anything that's at all healthy. I mean, it's all the way to the almost breaking the meter. And he said it was the weirdest thing because he didn't feel anything.
No, you don't.
You don't feel a thing.
But 20 years later, you get cancer or something.
Exactly.
Isn't that the weirdest thing?
You know, there was a bunch of survivors from the atomic bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and they found that some people had zero symptoms. And they were claiming that it was the miso soup and the seaweed that these people were eating. Now, how true this is, I do not know.
Yeah.
But I had read an article on that where these people were asymptomatic from the miso and the seaweed that they had been eating, the iodine.
So all the iodine.
Yeah.
The strong iodines in the traditional Japanese soup. They were asymptomatic.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So they were protecting their thyroids without knowing it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can look it up and find out, but I found that pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
That this is a way you can protect yourself from a lot of this modern radiation. You just eat a traditional Japanese food.
We should think about that. We have a power plant. What? How many?
Yeah, we have a power plant that they actually shut down.
Whoa.
Due to leakage.
Wow.
So we have upped our iodine. We're also doing a bunch of sea vegetables, kelps.
When we drive down to San Diego, I'll show you right on the side of the road. You'll see it.
Damn, let's get some seaweed soup for.
Seriously.
Well, you know, I grew up in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, which is just a few miles from Harrisburg, at 3 Mile Island.
Oh my God.
That was the biggest nuclear disaster in the United States. I was actually in Carlisle when that happened, and wow, that was kind of scary. Yeah.
Wow.
What happened at that? Like what
they had to shut the plant down because of excessive leakage, and they evacuated everyone around the area on either side of the Susquehanna River, where 3 Mile Island was. It's a little island in the middle of the Susquehanna River, which is this major artery going right past the state capital of Pennsylvania. And the people for miles around, they were all evacuated. There was actually a meltdown in the reactor, and they had to shut it down. But there was some radiation. Of course, we'll never know the real truth.
Yeah.
They keep
that
stuff
under wraps.
Yeah, of course. They didn't want to panic anyone.
So do you
There'd be so many lawsuits and all that kind of stuff. So,
do you know of any reactions of people that you knew from there?
I do not. But yeah, apparently there was radiation that was leaked out into the.
How long were you there? Because you had a gym in Pennsylvania too, right? And you were there for a long time.
I had I worked in a lot of gyms. I started in the gym business around 1970.
Okay.
While I was a freshman in college, I was a physical education major at Westchester, Westchester State College at the time. It was a state teachers college.
Really?
It's now a university. It's got bigger, but they had the School of Health and Physical Education there at Westchester. It was a very well-known physical education school. And all my gym teachers came from there. And I knew from the time I was 12 years old that I wanted to be a physical education teacher. I wanted to be a gym teacher.
By the time you were 12?
When I was 12 years old, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Usually at 12, kids are like, how can I get out of my education?
I was just trying to figure out how to ditch school.
I just admired my guys. And, my gym teacher was also my wrestling coach.
Oh.
And they also was the assistant football coach. And so I had a good relationship with this guy. And I really admired him. And, of course, I wanted to please him. And I really looked up to him. And that got me on the road to being a health and PE, getting a health and PE.
That's awesome.
But once I started teaching in the public school, 1974, I found that, kids can be kind of rough. I was teaching junior high school, and while I actually enjoyed it to a point, just the hassle for the money that you get in these inner city schools, I really enjoyed the gym business more. And I had always been working part-time while going to college in a gym. Actually, the gym was called Huff and Puff Gym. It was the first Nautilus gym in the East Coast.
Really? Everything else was free weight?
At that time, yeah. It was like the first one. And then a bunch of Nautilus places popped up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was very much steeped in the Arthur Jonesian high-intensity training philosophy, which I liked, and I got great results. And anyone that says machines are non-functional, bullshit.
Really?
1973, Miami Dolphins were the only team ever to go undefeated and win a Super Bowl. Guess what they trained on? Nautilus circuit training on machines. So all these young guys that say, drank the Kool-Aid that machines don't work, it's such utter nonsense.
Yeah. I've been doing more machine and Nautilus work because I think I was telling you before the show, I messed my back up. I messed it up about a year and a half ago, and I've had 2 or 3 other times since then that I've really messed my lower back up. So finally I did that again about a month and a half ago. I was doing free weights. I was doing dumbbells, incline. I was doing, for me, I thought it was a lot, 85. And
so pretty heavy weight.
Yeah, and I was getting strong and I felt good. But as soon as I kicked it, you know how you kick it off?
You popped your back.
I popped my back, and then so now I've just said, you know what?
You exceeded your structural capacity.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put that.
What did you say?
You exceeded your structural capacity. And the problem is you don't know.
Yeah.
But at any rate, the Nautilus does work. And I was in some of the best, and I was wrestling Division I NCAA. And I don't know whether your viewers know much about wrestling, but it's a rough game, man. And you got to be in really good shape. Anyone that follows MMA, it's no accident that almost every weight division is dominated by former NCAA wrestlers because it makes you hard, man.
Yeah.
It's work ethic and incredible conditioning, and you just develop a very tough mindset.
Yeah.
And I was like a year, maybe 2 years behind Dan Gable. He was like the idol for all of us young guys, So,
so you were doing primarily Nautilus training?
Yeah, and I was working at a Nautilus gym, and using the high intensity training principles, and even for bodybuilding, and just getting sheer size. I mean, look at Casey Viator, Mike Menser, Ray Menser, Dorian Yates. So I mean, for sure, the single set to failure principle certainly works. But everything works, though, to an extent, right? Olympic lifting works, powerlifting works, volume training works. It all works. It just depends on your goals
And what kind of body type you have and what you're going for?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to genetics,
Yeah.
The genetic superiors are always going to be larger, stronger, more muscular than anyone else. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was pretty good friends with a lot of strength coaches in the NFL. Uh-huh. And I remember the one guy, I used to go down to the Eagles training room. Mm-hmm. Doug Wolf, really excellent strength coach. And he told me that a lot of the younger players, they don't even lift. Sometimes they're in the height of their career. They're incredibly genetically gifted. And he said they just walk into the room and breathe the air and they just get bigger, It won't matter what they do.
That's crazy.
It's going to work for them.
Yeah.
As they get towards the end of the career, they get really serious about their strength training.
Yeah, they have to.
Because of the injuries and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, probably half of the NFL still uses machine-based training.
Really?
And high-intensity training. A lot of NCAA universities do as well.
What about you these days? Do you do primarily body weight stuff?
Yeah, because I'm traveling.
Yeah.
You can use the same basic philosophy.
Uh-huh.
I do a lot of isometrics.
Okay.
A lot of people, that was really popular in the 60s when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were using it. And then, of course, Bruce Lee kind of resurrected it during the 70s. He was a huge isometric fan. Uh-huh. And
he'd work out his joints and things. Didn't he work out like his forearms and all these small...
he really paid attention to detail.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that gets you hurt in martial arts and so
forth. Was he isometrics only, or did he add that into addition to...
No, he did weight training too.
Okay.
And then he was a machine guy too.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He got the Marcy trainer. Remember the old Marcy trainer? It was like a multi-gym.
No.
Yeah. It just sold on eBay a bunch of years ago.
Really?
Bruce Lee's, yeah.
Wow.
Read the book The Dragon's Body by John Little.
The Dragon's Body?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty much Bruce Lee's training regimen.
Really?
And how he trained himself. And so he could pretty much combine body weight training, free weights, isometrics. But then in the later years, he got very much into training with machines.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah, so anyone that says it doesn't work, they just don't understand the human body.
Yeah.
It all works.
Yeah.
For some people, the machines may be a little bit safer, a little easier on the joints.
Right.
If you figure if you're a martial artist or football player, rugby player, and you're having all this contact, you don't want your strength training to become a dangerous thing.
Right. Like with me.
I was going to say, are you taking notes over there?
Seriously.
Well, the other thing is too, like, and I mean, now that you've told me that you've been hurt, but I mean, basically, if you're getting hurt in your training, you got to take a hard look at what are you doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of people get really confused about what the proper goal of strength training is. There's extrinsic goals and intrinsic goals. Uh-huh. The extrinsic is all about performance. How much weight can I lift? How many reps can I do?
Yeah.
It's kind of like almost being a competitive weightlifter.
Yeah, that's kind of where my mental side was.
But sometimes you will sacrifice form and technique in an effort just to heave the weights around.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where you get hurt.
Yeah.
Intrinsic goal is you just basically provide your muscles with a stimulus. Uh-huh. You're not particularly overly concerned about the amount of weight or even the number of reps. Your true goal is to provide a stimulus to the muscle, meaning that you work the muscle to very deep level fatigue, so that biologically you're basically tapping into that survival mechanism, and your body in its wisdom then will increase strength. But your primary goal isn't the reps or the weight.
Yeah.
That's just a byproduct.
Yeah.
Your primary goal is to use perfect form and produce deep-level muscular fatigue.
Now, is this kind of exercise, in your opinion, absolutely necessary? Are there body types that could get by their whole life doing gentle walking and yoga and things, or is it a necessity?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, there are plenty of people that live to 100 that
do you think they could be better if they added in strength training?
One of the things that happens to everyone is what they call creeping obesity. It doesn't matter. You hear people say, well, they'll be in their 50s or 60s and say, I'm the same weight I was in high school.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's no way that they haven't increased the percent body fat. Their body composition has changed. Because with age, your muscles do begin to shrink. It's called sarcopenia. And if you're the same weight, you're just skinny fat. That's all it is.
We were talking about that.
The fat around the muscle has gotten thicker and deeper as the muscle has shrunk.
Yeah.
So it's
and you see it with women.
Weight.
You'll see skinny women, but in a bikini they have tons of cellulite, and they're just like dewlapped ass,
Yeah.
You know, the butt's hanging, they're saggy, and you know, this saggy skin. That's due to creeping obesity. Their fat content increased, the muscles shrank.
And they stay the same way.
Even though they're the same way. So the secret is to aging is to keep the muscles as strong as possible. And the most efficient way to do that is through scientific strength training. I'm not talking about CrossFit. I'm not talking about Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, you know, heaving heavy weights around. You can do it with just your body weight. For many people, weights are a little bit more convenient. For some people, they're not even strong enough to handle their body weight. Like most women, for example, cannot do a single chin-up.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
So, you know, a machine could be very helpful, or even free weights. And you could get a fantastic workout, prevent the age-related muscle loss, and prevent creeping obesity.
That's fascinating. I never really thought about it that. So it's just basically the proportion of fat to muscle, and the people stay the same. So they maybe can fit into their jeans the same. They look maybe a little bit the same. But it is interesting, though, too, when someone, like a woman will put on weight, and a lot of it's muscle weight. It might be 5 pounds or something, but they look skinnier, and they look, and their jeans are bigger, but then they're probably more healthy, so it's not necessarily...
But they change their body composition.
Yeah.
It is possible to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time, but you look thinner. I've seen some people not even change their weight at all and still get inches thinner.
Yeah.
Because as the fat begins to diminish and the muscles grow, you know, the actual proportions improve. And as far as aging, weight training is a fantastic way to keep your bones from decalcifying. Osteoporosis.
Yeah.
And it happens with a lot of guys too.
Yeah.
But women in particular suffer because the resistance has to be heavy enough to flex the bone of the shaft, and that stimulates the body to bring calcium to the bones. So you're basically, the weight training has to be hard enough to be a threat, perceived as a threat to the body's survival mechanism.
Right.
The body saying, hey, I'm being given this really hard task and I'm not up to it, which means that you need to push yourself to pretty deep level fatigue. Some people call it momentary muscular failure, where the muscles just play out. So the body will perceive that as a threat, and then it will take steps to make sure they get stronger and
so how far
the connective tissue, all that stuff, your fascial tissue.
So like in terms of muscular failure, how far do you go? Do you do high reps or low reps? I guess it depends on your goals, and that's
it depends. First of all, what is the rep speed? Yeah. One thing overlooked in almost every study I've ever seen about strength training, you hear this single set versus multi-set thing. There was a guy by the name of Fisher that did a meta-analysis of over 37 studies, and he could not determine an advantage doing more than one set.
Doing more than one set?
Really?
Yep.
So it was the speed of the set.
Well, it's the time under load. That's the single most important factor to increase muscular hypertrophy.
So you're talking about really going really
slow.
Well,
I mean, most guys, they're just slinging the weights around. You see them in the weight room.
Yeah.
Ba-boom, ba-boom. Maybe a set of 10 reps lasts 20 seconds. They're going so fast. Figure they lift in 1 second and lower in 1 second, right? That's 2 seconds. 10 reps could take as little as 20 seconds, 25 seconds. So by going with slower, high tension, right, and paying attention, you have a lot less chance of injuring yourself, because you take the momentum out. It's just plain physics, and you provide higher tension. What you should really be measuring is the total time under load of each set. And if you do a slow, prolonged set, let's say up to 70 seconds, that's
intense.
Yeah, it's very intense. And you get a great workout, and it's very safe, much safer than throwing the weights around.
Sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of times if you use a lot of speed, the weight has a tendency to lift itself almost.
Yeah.
You get that initial
momentum.
jerking, but then the momentum carries the weight. So you're actually working out only a small percentage of the muscle fibers. So you don't even get that good of a workout. You get the ego maybe gratification of throwing the heavy weights around.
Yeah.
The problem is, as you found out,
multiple times,
you can you start breaking down.
Yeah.
You create these tremendous forces on the connective tissues and the muscles, and then you end up with an injury. And as you get older, especially my age now, I can't afford an injury.
No.
I could bounce back when I was in my 20s and 30s, but man, takes a long time to come back. Sometimes you never come back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, this recent back injury has taken me a month.
So, I advise to everyone, especially anyone over 40, to slow it down. And I like to use a metronome, and I actually count the cadence. Now, there is a technique called the super slow training philosophy,
like the static
where they go,
contraction.
well, no, it's where 10-second, really slow 10-second reps.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with going slow, but I find that once you go too slow, it's almost like you bog down.
Okay.
I prefer, like Mike Menser was really big into 4-4, 4 seconds up, 4 seconds down. It's a long time. Think you're lifting, let's say a curl, right?
That's a long
1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000.
It's a long time.
Pause, squeeze, now down. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000. That's pretty slow.
That's pretty gnarly.
That's a long
4
time.
4. And I'll use 5 Sometimes I'll use 10-10.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes I use 30 seconds, one rep. 30 seconds up, 30 seconds down. It's called negative emphasize.
But with what kind of exercises are you?
Anything. Try a chin up sometime. This guy, Dr. Ellington Darden, just came out with this really interesting program called negative emphasize training, where you do 2 negative reps to 1 positive rep, but each rep is 30 seconds. So imagine you step up to the top of a chin-up bar, and you slowly lower yourself down in 30 seconds. And at the bottom, you don't relax. You keep the lats active. You keep the biceps active. Your arms are still just a little bent with tension. Now you pull yourself up.
For 30
slowly,
seconds.
30 seconds.
Oh,
Get your chest to the top of the bar. Squeeze the lats. Squeeze the biceps. Now you do 1 more negative rep. I would say probably 95% of the people listening out there couldn't do it.
No.
You might have to start, 10-10-10 or 15-15-15 or even 20-20-20. But over time, you build up to 30-30-30. It's absolutely brutal. But
that's insane.
The benefit is you don't have to do it very often. The other benefit is you get tremendous results.
How come you don't have to do it very often? Because you're reaching
Because
so
as the
deep?
intensity goes up, the volume must go down.
Okay.
When you train really intensely, it takes a while for your muscles to recover. Not just the muscles, but systemically. Your system.
So your system has
When
to
you work your muscles, you're working your liver, you're working your kidneys, you're working your hormonal system. That's why these guys that like to split the routine, legs one day, upper body the next day, or maybe my biceps and my lats on Monday, and my triceps and my delts and pecs on Tuesday, and my front thighs, you know, and calves, you know what I mean? Split routine.
It's completely.
But they're not taking into account that your system, systemically, right, your hormonal system, your liver, your kidneys, all the supportive
your glands and all that.
Your glands, that they're being taxed.
So that
every time you end up being overtrained.
So that wouldn't be a good thing because you're sort of doing that every day. You're
it's
taxing.
not a good thing. And the reason people do it is because they're trying to emulate professional bodybuilders.
Right.
And what they don't realize is when you're taking anabolic steroid drugs and growth hormone and other performance-enhancing drugs, it changes the ball game drastically. Your ability to recover changes.
You can come back.
So people are saying, well, why not take them? Well, because you're running a real serious risk with totally screwing your hormones up. Plus, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Plus, you run the risk of heart attack and all sorts of other related
I never really
things.
thought about that.
Cancer.
Yeah, when you're training every day, people think, I'm training my lower body, or I'm doing push-pulls, or I'm doing some sort of squats today and bench or something, but...
See, every day's liver day, every day's kidney day.
Every day's liver day,
I never thought about it like that.
So these organs are taking the brunt of this through hormonal secretions and all that. That's a trip. I never thought of that.
And, your nervous system, right, is directly connected to your internal organs and your endocrine system. So when you're stimulating your muscles, right, through the nervous system innervation, you're also stimulating all the internal organs at the same time.
Yeah.
Because they're all interconnected with the nervous system. So, you have nerves running all over the body from muscles to different various organs. And people don't realize that you are training your entire system, your entire body.
What do you think about
Man.
full body exercises like kettlebells and a lot of the stuff like that? Do you think that's
they
place
can
for that?
I've always been an advocate of kettlebell training, when I learned it, but I'm very cautious now because I've seen a lot of injuries. And at the start of the kettlebell wave, right? It was all rah, and there was all this so-called Russian research, and that no one's ever actually seen because it's all in Russian. So you have a few individuals interpreting the Russian research and blah blah blah.
Who knows where they are?
I mean, who knows what's going on? I mean, the last I saw on the Olympic medal podium, the U.S. is still collecting more gold medals than Russia ever did. You know, so I mean, except for that one point in the '80s, I think. But at any rate. The kettlebell can be a useful tool, but there's a lot of technique to it. Unlike other things, you got to be super careful and be well schooled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like it's like the deadlift, or it seems like it's really technical and you have to do it right. Because I almost injured myself with kettlebells, and then I stopped doing those, even though I want to do them. But
well, see,
I don't want to get injured.
Here's the problem with a lot of this stuff. What is the primary activity of most people around the world in developed countries? It's sitting.
Mm-hmm.
When you sit, you become very adapted to sitting. The SAID principle, specific adaptation to imposed demand.
Right.
If your basic imposed demand is pretty much sitting at a desk or at the breakfast table or in your car, I mean, pretty much all day.
Right.
Even after people sit all day at work and driving to and from work, which is more sitting, the first thing they do when they come home is they look in Facebook or social media, or they check their emails, or they watch TV.
Yeah.
And then they lay down in bed.
Yep.
All night. So
it's like 90% of the day is spent not standing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Now assume that, let's say you do work out maybe an hour a day, which is a big commitment to most busy people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't work out an hour a day, but let's assume you did.
Yeah.
What is your body going to adapt to? 1 hour of moving or 23 hours of sitting? Well, the thing that you do most is what you're going to adapt to. So no wonder people have such horrible posture, forward head, kyphosis, tight hamstrings, tight hip flexors. No wonder their backs hurt. And then they lose their ability to move. Mm-hmm. You lose your movement pattern because what you don't use, you lose. So even simple things like doing a squat with your feet flat in the floor. Most Americans can't squat.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they've been told it's bad for your knees. Yeah. Well, of course it is, because you never do it.
Right.
And now you're putting all the weight in the balls of your feet, and you're stressing your knees because your glutes have gone to sleep. Some people call it gluteal amnesia because you're basically sitting on your butt cheeks all day long, and you don't even know how to innervate them. But if you know how to squat, it's your butt that's doing 60% of the work, not your knees.
Yeah, or your thighs, right? It's mostly like your.
I mean, the thighs come into play for sure, but it's those big, strong glutes. So now people are going to the gym. They've lost their basic movement patterns. They're tight. They're stiff. And now they're trying to load bad movement patterns. And all too often, strength coaches and physical trainers, they get people that are really deconditioned. They've been eating the fast food. They've gotten obese. They have horrible movement patterns. And what do? They load them up with weight. Or they try to teach them kettlebell exercises. That's pretty insane, man. Doesn't it make sense that they wouldn't reestablish movement patterns and get these people moving well first and mastering their own body, then think about loading them up?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm cautious with the kettlebell.
Yeah, if done right under the right circumstances and with great care, right, and technique,
it can be a good training tool. But the way most people use it, they abuse it.
Yeah,
and they don't have the good movement patterns to begin with.
They're not educated,
so they're just going to screw themselves up, man, and cause all sorts of connective tissue problems. And and a lot of times, it's like you don't see the damage at first. Like people that have smoked for years,
Sure.
Yeah. They don't see the damage.
No.
But over time, you're getting all this micro trauma to the joints and the connective tissue. And the next thing you know, you have a really advanced case of osteoarthritis. And it's like, well, they don't even equate this type of immobility to their joints and the damage with what they were doing for maybe a decade or so, or 2 decades.
So you have on your website a bunch of workout videos and DVDs people can download, right?
I do.
And how to do this kind of stuff?
A lot of it, yes. But it still doesn't take the place of proper training. I would say, as good as my videos are, people that have poor movement patterns, they can't see themselves.
Yeah.
I recommend people go out to a good, at least, learn the basic form and technique with a physical trainer, even if you don't want to take one on full time. I do work with a lot of people online, but they're pretty motivated. I'm able to quickly analyze their needs just through pictures, and I have an extensive lifestyle questionnaire, and they send me their photos, and I can look at the structure and all that. And I do have movement pattern type. I call it vestibular reset exercise. You've heard of Tim Anderson and all that. Well, right. I'm a big fan of that type of. I call it baby crawling.
Yeah,
I even did a video, crawl like a baby, walk like a man.
Yeah.
Because people literally, their gait, everything has gotten screwed up over the years. And you get people rolling and crawling, basically mirroring what they did in early childhood development from the age of 1 month right up through their walking years. By repeating those basic movement patterns, you reestablish them in the brain. And you can immediately correct postural imbalances,
and being able
pains,
to
aches,
get off the floor, and not have all the points of contact on the floor.
That was you. And at the break, do you remember this? We were both trying it with our last interview with Steve. We were like, how can we get up off it? Let's see if we can do this.
Just sit cross-legged on the floor. In fact, all the people listening, sit down in a cross-legged position like a little kid, and then get up without using your hands or putting your knees on the floor. Just stand right up. It's called an X squat. If you can't do it, your chance of dying from all causes is about 10 times greater.
Yeah.
And it correlates with all sorts of stuff.
Wasn't there some study that you were talking about, maybe it was you or somebody else, how many times you can get up off a chair in 30 seconds? It was some sort of study, and we referenced it on one of our shows, where if you sit on the very edge of your chair and stand up and sit down, and if you can do that a certain amount of times in 30 seconds, and after a while your legs start to burn, and most people get out of breath and all that kind of thing. But it's
like doing half squats.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing where it gives you a level of, it's like, wow, I'm way off of being able to.
Well, your ability to move, it definitely diminishes if you don't move. And just going to the gym and walking a treadmill or doing the elliptical or whatever, it doesn't compensate for sitting. So I recommend that people get up, march around, move around, do some mobility, get down to the floor. You guys are lucky because you're right here at your house.
Yeah.
You can do like little exercise snacks. Throughout the day.
Thanks to you, whenever Kate and
I was just going to mention this.
are on the floor. We never help each other up
Truly,
anymore.
since we had you on the show, we don't. He used to offer his hand. I go, no thanks, and vice versa. We probably look really rude to the rest of the world, but we just.
But we don't help each
now.
other up off the floor anymore.
No,
I mean
we've
it's
changed
better.
our pattern.
It's no problem, man.
Yeah.
I mean, with my own parents,
I was thinking about
it. Just think of your grandma or your granddad, and the way they look and the way they move.
Right.
And most people's parents and grandparents didn't age all that well. And that's what's in a person's genetic heritage. That's exactly what you will look like unless you take steps to correction. And just recognizing the fact that you may look like granddad someday is enough incentive for me, at least.
Yeah, me too.
Hell no, man.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Yeah, you look at like where your family members are that are 20, 30 years older than you, and you just look at, just kind of take stock. That's why do I want the same kind of life, or do I want to be like them when I'm their age? And I can't think of a lot of people where I'd say yes to.
No, not me. So, I think of Master Elliot Gracie when he was in his 80s and 90s, still getting on the mat. Yeah. And his older brother Carlos, 103, still spry, Yeah, I think of,
at 95.
Jack LaLanne, man, real physical culture icon.
Yeah.
He was still doing one-arm push-ups when he was in his 90s on the Jay Leno show. I mean,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, the guy
towing
was like...
boats behind him.
But the interesting thing, he said, hey, you know what? I'm nothing special. I didn't have that great of genetics.
Yeah.
He said anyone can do what I do if they're willing to do what I do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most Americans have gotten pretty lazy.
Yeah.
Our lifestyle tends to make you lazy because, it's like that inertia thing, If you don't move, you have a greater tendency not to move, and then you just lose the incentive to move.
And then you can't do it, and you say you can't do it because you never do it, and it creates this whole cycle.
It creates this whole cycle. So,
Use it or lose it.
You want to take a little break?
Yeah,
You
let's do
have
it.
to go to the bathroom?
We think we both do.
I think we all do?
Flip a coin.
So for those that are listening, your website is Maxwell SC, right?
It is, maxwellsc.com.
Yes.
And I have an events page of different places I'll be visiting. I travel all over the world.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about that. I want to ask you about the cryotherapy you mentioned. I don't know if you mentioned it on the show. We've been talking so long or not.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. All right, so Steve Maxwell, maxwellsc.com if you're interested. And you do work with people around the world through Skype and things too, right?
Well, I haven't been doing the Skype so much, although that's a very possibility, but it's definitely an online program.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people have incentive to train. They just don't know what to do because there's so much conflicting information out there.
Yeah.
So where do I start? What do I do?
Yep.
You know, kettlebells, body weight, barbells, machines. I want to mix that in with, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Or I want to train MMA. Or, hey, man, I'm a rugby player or soccer player.
There's a lot that goes into people's goals.
How do I train? It's all about goals. But once you sort through what it is a person really wants, and sometimes that is not so easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have conflicting goals.
Yeah. Like conflicting goals with what their body type and what they actually can do.
I just had a guy that is desperate to gain muscular body weight. This guy in the Middle East, right? And he's a real thin, wiry ectomorph, or Vata, they would say in Ayurvedic medicine. And the guy just says, well, I need something to train for. And, my brother-in-law, he wants to train for a triathlon. It's like, dude, you're not going to gain any muscle at all if you start training for a triathlon.
Yeah, you're lose,
so your goals are completely conflicting.
Yeah.
He's desperate to gain weight because he's a hard gainer.
Yeah.
He just has trouble putting on muscular body weight.
Yeah.
And now he wants to train for a triathlon. He's just going to wither away to nothing.
Yeah.
He's already like a little skinny guy.
So you got to pick your thing.
So you got to pick what it is you want to excel at.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. A lot that goes into this. All right, we're with Steve Maxwell. We'll be right back right after this break. I wanted to tell you about this really powerful and unique product called the Q Laser. Did you know there's over 2,500 peer-reviewed clinical research studies showing the benefits of low-level laser therapy on the body? We had Dr. Larry Lytle on episode 165 talking all about it. Dr. Lytle, what is the Q Laser?
The Q Laser is a light-delivering device, handheld, rechargeable, that is for lay people and professionals, that works at the cell level of the body to restore energy. Since the body is all composed of cells and the cells are composed of atoms, it's good for any and everything in the body. It is especially beneficial for injuries. It will reduce swelling and inflammation before your eyes. Literally, you can have a sprained ankle and fly the laser, and within 30 minutes you can see that the swelling in the ankle has been reduced. Since all disease is inflammatory, you can assume that same process is working if you have some type of intestinal problem. We have pictures of using a heat instrument to diagnose the intestinal inflammation. We can show that intestinal inflammation is pretty much gone within 3 minutes using the Q1000 laser. It's the number one tool in your medicine cabinet. I have a saying, never leave home without your laser. I have had 3 serious burns, and each time I had my laser with me, I applied the laser immediately after I had the burn. I never even blistered.
Kate and I don't want to be without ours. We've worked out a special deal with Dr. Lytle for all of our listeners. If you'd like to learn more about how the Q Laser can dramatically improve your health, go to extremehealthradio.com/laser. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
Listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
Gosh, I should have a camera right now because you guys are just like over there in a club.
I'm working out with Mr. Maxwell over here.
I love it.
Wow, that feels good. It's invigorating.
Oh, totally.
I feel like I just got a little private sesh over there.
Hey, do you need to use the restroom?
I'm going to run. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. You guys can
making a run?
Yeah, that is so. We just ran an ad for a Qigong program that we recommend to people, but a lot of those things that you were just sharing with Kate are Qigong sort of related, right?
Yeah, very much so. I do a lot of tapping. It's also Taoist yoga, you know. I had a chance to study with some Taoist yogis that have, you know, it looks very similar to Qigong type movements. A lot of tapping, slapping, rubbing, you know, like massaging and, you know, this type of stuff. Yeah. Working the vital energy through the body.
There's something about that, isn't there?
Well, we're bioelectric machines, basically. You know, where we run on electricity. All we really are is a bunch of atoms and electrons floating around,
vibrating.
Yeah, we're vibrating at. Well, I mean, this is like a really slow vibration.
Yeah,
human beings supposedly vibrate at the fastest level on the planet.
Oh, really? Over all mammals and things?
Yeah.
Really?
Over all plants and mammals. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. I mean. I've been doing the tapping a little bit. I don't know if but it seems like what they say about it seems to make sense.
Here's a good one for guys. You hold your balls in your left hand. You cup your nutsack.
Okay.
You put your thumb at the base of the penis, so your penis is hanging out.
Okay.
And then you start to rub with your right hand. Right below the navel, right to the pubic bone, 81 times.
81 times.
Right. Then you switch hands. You hold once again, the shaft of the penis is actually, they recommend that you stimulate an erection.
Okay.
And then you rub the other way.
On the opposite hand. Okay.
Yeah, the opposite hand. One's clockwise, one's counterclockwise. And then 81 times. That's called the deer exercise. It stimulates your T levels.
Your testosterone and all that?
Yes.
Really?
Keeps
Is
your
that from the Tao of sexology?
It's all the ancient Taoist exercise.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Master Shen or something?
It's pretty easy to do. And then you pull up in the pubiocaucus muscle, and the muscle that keeps you from going to the bathroom. And it's supposed to help prevent prostate problems, premature ejaculation. And, of course, they're very intimate about not ejaculating very often. They recommend you keep your sex to like once a week, on weekends. Yeah, my yoga instructor said the same thing.
It preserves life force.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically innervating yourself, and your vital fluids, and you're ejaculating it out. So you want to try to hold that in. So
a lot
keep
of
your sex infrequent. And as you get older, like you got my age, maybe like twice a month is enough.
Well, like a lot of fighters, racehorses do this, right? They abstain for quite some time before their events.
I mean, I've seen studies that said that there was no real benefit to it that they could see, but I don't really trust modern Western studies. You know, they just were looking at how a guy felt, whether he was tired or whatever. But
I remember in that documentary that sort of made Hickson so famous. I mean, he's already so famous, but that choke, he talked about that, abstaining before his fights.
But that's
and all that.
ancient, man. You know, the yogis and then the Taoists, and you know they've been saying that forever, man.
Yeah, that's wild. That's so interesting.
But the deer, there's a female version too. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah.
What is it called? The deer
exercise.
The deer exercise.
Yeah, the woman rubs the breast.
Okay.
And cups the hand on the lower edge. I think she rubs the lower. I don't know. There's a different protocol for the women. I didn't actually.
You know, it's funny. I just saw a link.
I was taught this by an actual Taoist dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I saw a link for that book where you're referencing that, but there's a book out there. Maybe I should put it on the show page here where people can download that.
I do a bunch of Taoist exercises, you know, for the eyes, the ears. There's a thing called juice of jade where you rub your tongue around your teeth. Either 4, 8, 12, or 24 times.
What's it called? Juice of jade?
Juice of jade. And then you go clockwise, counterclockwise, then inside the teeth, around both ways, and then you get all the saliva built up. You don't swallow. Then you swish the saliva 38 times from side to side, all around. It's supposed to be fantastic for digestion, for gum and tooth health. And then you swallow 3 swallows of the saliva. But when you swallow, you got to keep your tongue pressed to the palate.
Against the roof of your mouth.
Yeah, it's not so easy to swallow. Try it.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah,
you can do
it.
That's kind of
hard.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wow, and so these are
and
ancient.
And then the hungry lion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've
did
seen
that in
people
yoga.
do that.
Very good for the thyroids, parathyroids. And my yoga instructor would pull and stretch the tongue.
Really?
Actually hold your tongue?
And pulls and stretches the tongue. He says fantastic for digestion. Because, you know, all digestion starts in the mouth with the tongue. And the movement of the tongue stimulates all the hormones for digestion. It gets everything going.
And it's all about digestion, everything.
It's all about digestion.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you eat. If you can't digest it, you can't assimilate it.
Yeah.
And anything that's undigested ferments or putrefies, and then some of those it forms toxins. And then some of those toxins, partially digested food particles, pass the gut membrane into the blood. This is what causes your inflammation, arthritis, and all
sore joints, and
sore joints, lack of recovery from workouts and all this.
Because you're getting all these toxins in your blood.
Yeah, you're loading your body up with these toxic substances.
How did you get involved with this kind of stuff? Because, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we talk about a lot, but I imagine that in traditional, in most martial arts studios, Jiu-Jitsu, it's sort of like maybe going to a gym where people are just going there for physical looks and things, and people maybe are going to train Jiu-Jitsu for
the pecs,
whatever
the buys, the tries, the buns of steel, wash bar abs.
How did you get into all this stuff coming from that kind of background? Like, what was
just always just very really a real seeker.
Yeah,
I had some pretty horrific injuries early in my life that made me really start to look at the health aspect of all this stuff.
Really,
started really reading and exploring. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for long time, just looking at all.
You've been doing
such a vast amount of information, and I would be, like the Bruce Lee, absorb what's useful. This is really good exercise. It makes me feel good. This is really, and just kind of formulated my little Maxwell system.
Wow! And so you've been doing jiu-jitsu since '89, right?
Since '89.
And so prior to that, you were into health since you're 12.
Pretty much, yeah. My father bought me my first
That's crazy.
Strength and Health magazine when I was about 12 years old. And I started weight training in the basement with old York barbell. Actually, it predated York. It was a Milo barbell. The York Oil Burner Company, owned by Bob Hoffman, bought out Alvin Calvert and the Milo Barbell Company.
Really?
They bought, and then they started manufacturing York barbells. But I had one of the original Milo systems.
Wow, it's 12
because they
years
had
old.
a lot of stock, I suppose. They just had to sell it and get rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing would be such a collector's item now.
Yeah, my gosh. I remember doing the same thing when I was 12. I had a little workout Nautilus thing. Remember I told
you said that, and I thought you were the only person that ever... I was like, who does that at 12?
At 12, but my friend and I used to... he had a weight bench in his garage. His dad used to work out, and I was 12. And, he was trying to... His whole thing was he was trying to build his calves up because he had really skinny legs, and so he was trying to do that. And so I kind of caught on, and I was training and stuff like that. But it's cool. I mean, as long as you don't let it get, chew... I mean, there's a guy in my gym who's... he's 5'10", 330 pounds.
Yikes.
And just it's... I mean, there's a lot of...
Was he a powerlifter guy?
Powerlifter,
huge, man,
Yeah. It's... You see a lot of these people, and I just don't think... I mean, my whole thing is I want to be able to do... I desperately want to get back on the mat and start training jiu-jitsu, but I definitely want to be able to be strong and flexible and fast when I'm 70, 80, 90. I mean, that whole thing with Elio Gracie is just...
Well, a lot of this stuff is that these guys are doing are just basically unsustainable.
Yeah, you can't keep doing that, can you?
Yeah. And the problem is, if what floats your boat is lifting a certain amount of weight or doing certain performances, there comes a time in every man's life and woman's life you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So are you just going to quit? Because, it can be a great source of disappointment with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to long for, back in the day I could do this, and
the glory days.
Yeah, the glory days, and it's like you got to cut all that shit out.
Yeah.
And forget about the glory days.
Yeah.
Because each decade you're going to notice a little drop. Doesn't matter. Now, I've had some guys say to me, "Are we on air?"
Yes.
Oh, okay,
yes.
Cool. I've had some guys say to me like, man, I just got faster and stronger, but they didn't start their jiu-jitsu or their training till they're much later in life, or they had got so deconditioned that they have an immediate increase, and they're like, but when you've been doing it all your life, believe me, you start to drop.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was at the height of my athletic career probably in the mid-70s.
Mid-70s, really?
Yeah, well, I mean, my NCAA wrestling.
Okay.
I mean...
How old were you when you started jiu-jitsu?
38.
Okay, that's
lesson.
1 year off from... I mean, I trained 5 years ago, but I've been off it for years, but
when
I'm about 39 now.
When I graduated from college, I just had this feeling of being unfulfilled. I did pretty good. I mean, I had a pretty decent record, dual meet, but I didn't do so good in the tournaments, like the nationals. In fact, I got quite sick. I overtrained, and I just felt like I just hadn't really fulfilled my potential with the wrestling. So I did a lot of wrestling. I was coaching a high school wrestling team, and I was still training, and I met some college guys. So I still managed to get in the mat quite a bit. I did a whole bunch of... There was like open freestyle tournaments all over the place. I do some of that. And, I just was looking for something to replace that wrestling. But it got to a point where it's really hard. Once I started working at this one gym as a fitness director, it's like, wow, college wrestlers train mid-afternoon. And unless you have a really flexy schedule, kind of hard just to take off work and go over and wrestle at a university.
Yeah, that's not easy. Yeah.
And it's pretty much a young man's sport. By the time you're in your 30s, wow, dude, it's hard to keep up with those guys.
Yeah.
It's such a hard, demanding sport. So I just started more and more drifting away from it, It was just really hard to stay with it.
So then you started getting into jiu-jitsu
I was looking
on.
for something to replace it. I tried karate, kung fu, Muay Thai, because there's, they schedule classes at a time that's a little bit more conducive to a person that has
Works.
a family, and
Yeah.
you know, a householder,
things.
has a life.
Yeah.
You know, not a college kid
Yeah.
anymore. But I found those things unsatisfying compared to the wrestling.
Yeah.
I was just a natural grappler. Yeah. Kempo
Yeah.
karate, you know. And, I mean, you know, they were okay, but it just wasn't that same.
It wasn't the same, yeah.
And then when I heard about the Gracie brothers, actually a friend of mine kind of drug me to the first seminar on the East Coast under protest.
Really?
You know, I was like, I don't know, man.
Did they tell you it was grappling and then?
Yeah, but I just couldn't visualize it, you know what I mean? And I was like one of the stubborn guys, you know.
What year was this?
89.
89?
November of 89 is when I had my first seminar. So that was the starting point. And it was like, wow, this is what I've been looking for. It was Hoyce, Hoyler, and Horia. And they put on this magnificent seminar in Parsippany, New Jersey.
Really?
Like, wow, this is so freaking
So Hoyce
awesome,
must have
man.
been really young.
He was really young. He didn't even speak English.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. And you were sold. That was
sold.
your moment.
They handled me so easy, it was ridiculous. It was like, wow. I was a pretty high-level wrestler.
Yeah.
And this little skinny Brazilian guy doing this to me, I want to learn this, man.
Wow.
I mean, I had no trouble taking him down, putting him on the mat. But, man,
once you were there,
it was like, I don't want to be there. It's like, holy
you end
shit.
up choked or whatever.
Chokes, triangles, you know. I got caught in a footlock. And I wouldn't tap. I refused to tap like most wrestlers. Popped my foot.
Your ankle or your...
Horan warned me, man, 3 times. Said, Steve, this is very dangerous. Just tap. I said, I'm okay. I'm like, I'm not okay.
Oh, man.
And then I had a wrestling shoe on. You know, I wore wrestling shoes like a wrestler. And the foot swelled up so much, I could barely get the shoe off. And then the next day, I couldn't even get the shoe on hardly. It just swelled. I iced it in a bathtub all night long. I just got ice. And it's still swollen, man. But I still made it through the seminar the next day. It just hurt like a son of a bitch.
Yeah, I bet.
And,
hey, so you do a lot of like the cryotherapy.
I was going to say, speaking of ice.
Yeah, speaking of ice, didn't you do something recently up in LA?
I was always interested in cold water therapies. Back in the 70s, I used to use the alternating hot and cold showers. It was a old German technique.
We've heard about that.
You know, warm is, you know, like really hot, and then ice as cold as the water comes out of the faucet. And in the winter in the East Coast, it's like, but you know, after you've done heat, you're warm, right?
Sure.
So the cold water actually feels good.
A little relief.
And then you kind of go almost numb back and forth.
How long did you go for each?
5 changes.
Okay.
30 seconds with the cold. Maybe a minute with the warm till you feel warm.
Man,
and
East Coast.
In winter.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Wow,
it's really cold.
I imagine.
And you have to control your breathing. You don't want to go into startle reflex, no gasping or anything.
Yeah.
You got to just keep the breathing calm, and you put it all, you know, on your abdomen, your face, you know, your whole body. Getting the testicles into the cold water is extremely good for T levels and all that kind of stuff, fertility, and then. You take a really rough, coarse towel, and then you give yourself. There's an actual technique to toweling off. It's like a little workout, like a little mini gymnastic system. I was shown by this German guy, and then later the Russians have their own little version of it.
How do you get a coarse towel though? Like
you take it out of the dryer. You take like you don't get those high fiber cotton towels.
Oh, just something
you get
cheap.
The more inexpensive, still thick.
Okay.
But cheaper type cotton towels.
Okay.
And then you take them immediately out of the dryer, and then you leave them just dry, and they get stiff as a board.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And they're really coarse, like a loofah.
Okay.
And you just rub your skin, and it's like a workout, man. You just, you know, it's almost like shining shoes.
Yeah.
You know, and you're buffing.
And there's a technique to it.
There's
to
a
do
technique,
it right.
yeah.
What's it called? What's that? Is there a name for that?
I just heard it was towel treatment.
Hot. And so, do you finish with cold water or hot water?
You always finish with cold.
Always finish with cold.
Yeah,
and
then
you
you
go
step
directly into
out.
the towel thing.
And it helps to maybe give yourself a very vigorous head massage first. It's just about the same time I discovered the traditional Swedish dry brush massage. And it's a Swedish beauty secret. It's been around forever. I saw you guys have a dry brush in your...
We love
And so you start with the soles of your feet, and you work up in little circular
pattern
brushes
toward the heart.
all towards the heart. So you do your legs first, feet, legs, then your hands, then your neck. Usually stay away from the face, but you can do your throat and the back of your
I saw
neck.
in your video you did your face.
Yeah, right? I do my
Lightly.
face.
Yeah.
But for women with more delicate skin, you might want to avoid it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, your chest. And it really gets that lymph going, and fantastic for just cleaning dead skin cells off.
Yeah.
And
lymphatic.
Right? I mean, the lymph system, you figure the skin's the largest organ of elimination in the body. It's a protective organ, but definitely the largest organ. But people don't really take care of it. I mean, people put salves and creams and balms and such, but the rubbing, the brisk rubbing, and also the exposure of the skin to the air. Because after you start with the dry brush, then alternating hot and cold, then finish with the towel buff.
Look at that.
And then you take an air bath. You walk around nude. And a lot of times I'll do my Taoist yoga exercises and Qigong and different mobility drills.
You're a wild man.
Yeah.
You're crazy. I love it.
To nature.
And, if I could, I'd expose my torso. I'd expose my whole body to some sunlight.
Yeah.
But kind of hard to do that in the nude. You got to put your shorts on.
Well, I hear that's really important to do is to expose your genitals, men or women, to the sun. I mean, hear that's really important.
I have, but you got to be guarded,
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to have your neighbors
TMZ over.
calling you for
indecent exposure.
Indecent exposure. We're so pure in this country. People,
Hey, there's a nude beach just down the road.
There is.
Yeah.
Right by the power plant.
Yeah, right.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Right next to the old radiation
center.
Get irradiated by the sun and the power plant.
And the power plant. So did you do the cryo up in LA that you guys
well, that was my first cryo, the alternating hot and cold showers.
Back
It was pretty
in the day.
damn cold.
Ooh.
But then later I read about dowsing. It's a Russian technique where you take a 5-gallon bucket and you stand outside naked, winter, summer, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And you slowly, you fill it with water as cold as it comes from the tap, and you slowly begin to pour it up over your belly, up over your head, and then down your back.
Okay.
So it's about a 30-second douse.
So it's just really small amounts of water just kind of gently going over.
It's fucking cold, man.
Oh.
And you never look forward to it.
No.
But after you finish, you feel like, whoa, man. Unbelievable. I did that for 7 years in Philly.
Once a day?
Twice a day.
Twice a day.
Once before 11 o'clock and before 11 at night.
Okay.
So usually in the wee hours in the morning when it's still really cold.
Yeah.
Even in the winter. I remember my dad taking a picture of me out there. I wore, of course, a Speedo because they were there. But normally I would do it naked because I had a big wall around my Center City house, and my neighbors couldn't see me as long as I stayed in the one corner.
Okay.
There was a big fence around my air conditioning unit in the back, and the fence hid me in the back corner of the wall where a tap was and a drain. And that's where I kept my bucket. And then the tradition was to take that 5-gallon bucket and douse yourself. And then during the summer when it was warmer, I'd do three buckets.
3 buckets.
3 buckets.
Was it still horrible or was it refreshing during summer?
Refreshing in the summer.
I bet.
And for people that had never done it, it's recommended you start in the summer and build yourself up. Because you don't just jump out midwinter and start doing this.
Stand in the snow and
you can make yourself sick.
Right.
Yeah. And according to this Russian guy, he said that you create like this flash fever where your inner core temperature is like spikes, like really high.
It's responding to the cold temperature.
And also, there's recent research that indicates that you have you have 4 types of fat in your body, right? You have internal fat that is stored in your peritoneal cavity around your organs. That's the dangerous fat.
Right.
That's the yellow fat that you see. And then you have subcutaneous fat, which is directly underneath the skin, right? Then you have depot fat. That's like the saddlebags or the love handles, or some women get in the arms, or even the upper back, where the bra snaps. These are basic fat patterns. You can't help your depot. You can thank your parents for that. Your genetics.
Yeah.
You can get rid of it, but it's hard. It's the first place to get fat, the last place to go. Your depot storage areas. Okay, so you got those 3 types: internal, depot, subcutaneous. But you have a 4th type called brown fat.
We've heard about that.
Brown fat is metabolically active, helps produce heat in the body, and it was part of our ancient ancestors' survival mechanism. What it does, it keeps your body temperature consistent in extremely cold weather.
So
and it can only be stimulated by exposure to the cold. But modern people, because they're in climate-controlled houses, always bundling up, they never experience changes in temperature. their brown fat just fades away.
So we don't
the
have
cells
it at all?
shrink. Well, you have vestiges of it.
Okay.
So you want the brown fat?
You want the brown fat because it's metabolically active. It helps keep you lean.
Where is it located?
And it in the neck and also in the peritoneal cavity.
Really?
And you can stimulate it
through
cold water treatments.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. We had a neuroscientist on the show, a brain surgeon named Dr. Jack Cruz, and he lost. He got up. He was doing a presentation at a seminar, and when it was his turn to speak, he got up and tore his meniscus or tore his ACL just from getting up because he was such a fat guy.
Whoa!
And he knew at that point something had to change.
I'd say.
And so he started doing all this research. A smart guy, and doing tons and tons of research, and figured out the kind of the stuff that you're saying. And he was able to, through, I don't know if he did any dietary. I got to listen to the interview again. We did it with him, but basically all he did for a year was soak in these sort of cold ice baths for a year, and he did this every single day. And I think he lost some over 100 pounds, and it's probably because of the stuff that you're saying. Changes the hormonal.
It changes your hormonal profile,
Glandular.
stimulates brown fat cell production. Shivering burns more calories than running in the same length of time.
Really?
But the thing is, you got to be careful not to overdo and enervate yourself, because a body that is full of toxins and so forth, like that guy, you could cause yourself to get quite ill. Not that the cold is the source of it, the cold therapy per se,
right,
but the weakening of the immune system by overexposure. It's like anything that's stimulating like that. You got to take it in small doses in the beginning, like the cold water therapy. You start in the summer with the dowsing.
Okay,
and that takes the place of actually jumping in a lake or a stream.
Okay.
When I was in Russia, like I went to this place, Novosibirsk. It's in Siberia, and it was spring, but it was still like cold as hell. Yeah. I saw people going out and just like dunking themselves. There was still ice in the river, man.
So it's like,
and they were taking infants, like 6 months old and stuff, and dunking the little babies under the water. And the kids weren't crying or nothing, man. And they would towel them off, and it's kind of like your body. The babies have a lot of brown fat when they're born.
So they just know intrinsically, as in their culture, this is a good thing to do?
Yeah, it's been a tradition.
Because there are ice baths and there are Russian plunges, polar bear plunges, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, the Vikings settled Russia. White Russia was pretty much from Norsemen who went up those tributaries and traded with the people that were there. But then they had a very strong influence, and that's why you see so many blonde, blue-eyed Russians. It's all the Vikings coming into the area and settling.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Viking tradesmen and raiders and all that. If they thought they could beat you, they'd raid. If they thought that they couldn't, they'd trade.
Wow.
Good plan, guy.
Yeah. And you still see a lot of, blonde, very Nordic, blonde, blue-eyed. And I don't know what the original indigenous people were there, but it's real interesting.
That's interesting.
You're dying to do one of those, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been drawn.
Cryo?
Well, cryotherapy, I'd love to do that, but the ice baths I've heard a lot about, and I'd like to do that.
Well, I still also occasionally will soak in a tub, just fill the tub. Like this morning, I did it. After my training, I went out and did some training, some running combined with Spider-Man crawls, a little vestibular reset thing. I can't get in the mat right now, so that's how I basically keep my basic movement skills. And then I went back and just jumped in the bathtub and soaked.
So at the hotel, you just got a bunch of ice?
I just filled the tub up with water as cold as it could come from the tap. And right now in L.A., the water's still pretty chilly. It was not horribly uncomfortable. I could sustain it. I soaked in there for 5 minutes, but it was cold.
Okay.
I was down by the ocean. I was right in Manhattan Beach, so it was cold, but it wasn't like horribly cold.
Wow.
I guess I could have got some ice and thrown it in there, but
Ooh.
I haven't been doing the soaks for a while, so I just used the water as it was out of the tub.
Yeah.
But
it's good, right, for inflammation and especially post-workout.
Man. But the other thing I like to do also in the cold showers is do the Taoist tapping. I do that deer exercise we talked about earlier. All tapping and digestive movements and so forth.
And so you'll do that in the shower? Or
yeah,
after?
I like to do that with the cold water running over me,
While you're pulling your tongue out and dragon facing.
Yeah, doing all my stuff.
Dragon face, you like that?
Well, I have a whole tapping regimen that this
Yeah.
Taoist yogi showed me. It was kind of...
Is it like in the like here and then...
Yeah, I'll
Points.
just tap and then you
Yeah.
rub and you're pulling each finger.
Each
and
finger.
You do the other side. And then there's a digestive thing where you stimulate the kidneys and you go a little circle here for 4, then 8 big ones.
Okay.
And then, and you're doing breathing while you're doing it.
Mhm.
Then you rub the back of the kidneys and tap the kidneys. And
Wow.
then there's a thing you do with the legs and the toes. And it stimulates the flow of chi or, prana if you're, whatever you want to call
Whatever
it.
you want to call it, yeah.
It reminds me of a mixture between the Tristan's course that we do for Qigong and with
Uh-huh.
the tapping that we've been doing for, even with affirmations and
Yeah.
spiritual wise. It's kind of a cool...
Yeah, no, it's really
Kind of a cool thing.
it makes me feel quite excellent, and I learned it from these guys, and I started to incorporate it, and you know what? I just feel like $1 million when I do it.
Yeah.
And I notice when I don't do it, I don't feel so good.
Yeah, I figure a lot of the stuff, I think just in Western culture, in our culture, I think a lot of people doubt this kind of stuff, and they think...
Oh, sure, they think it's goofy, or
Whoa,
where's the
whoa.
double-blind studies, man?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like it's
It's hard to study this stuff.
It's really hard to study. It's hard to measure this stuff, and I feel like it takes such little effort to do, and it does make you feel good.
It does
And
make you feel
even
good.
if
Why
there's
would you
no
not?
scientific, even if it doesn't work, if it makes you feel good, there's
Certainly
something
no
going
harm
on.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly no harm to it.
So you sound like you do a lot of really cool anti-aging. I mean, all this kind of stuff is really anti-aging.
Well, as the man gets older, you got to start paying more and more and more attention and do more and more of this kind of stuff.
You ever see people that eat the same sort of diet they did when they were 15 and they're like 70? Isn't that amazing?
A
How
lot
do
of
you
times
not?
they're just bloated like toads.
Yeah.
They're barely able to move.
Yeah.
And it's
wild.
But I do try to stay away from old people.
Yeah.
I'd rather hang out with youngsters like you guys, Because who the hell wants to, act your age? Who the hell wants to act their age?
Yeah, right.
How do you act your age? Well, you just sit around and grump all the time? Or you talk about the good old days, right? We were
Right.
talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I want to be in the now. I want to talk about what I'm going to do tomorrow, next week, next year,
And
Not that I'm living in the future, but I certainly don't want to try to relive my glory years.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll talk about the glory years, but it's not where I'm
something-
living, man.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like what I want to do next year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I like to be around younger people. That's why I like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's mostly young guys, right?
Yeah.
Hanging out. And,
Smart young guys.
Yeah, smart young guys.
They
man.
don't, try to crush you. And that's the thing.
Well, I'm careful.
Yeah.
I pick my guys. I realize that, I'm not going to wrestle like I did even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But, you get guys that like to play chess. A lot of fun, man.
I think it's interesting, too, that what you're saying about the older you get, the more sort of on point you have to be with your regimen and things you do.
You do.
You really
can't neglect
do.
it, man.
You really do, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
You can't just...
the older you get, the more you need to do. I mean, life isn't fair, but that's just the way it is, man.
Yeah.
And you got to be even more vigilant.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I train with this yoga master. This guy's a pretty amazing guy. He's probably about 5 to 7 years older than me. I'm not sure.
Uh-huh.
He got to be getting pretty close to 70 now, but he
Uh-huh.
still moves unbelievably.
Really?
But he told me that between the age of 60 and 65 is a very crucial age for a man, that if you can make it through those years in pretty good shape, then it's free sailing from there on out.
Really?
But if you don't take care of yourself, I mean really take care of yourself in that little time frame, you're going to be set up for early death and or some real serious
Why did you
problem.
think he said between 60 and 65?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
Something in
something that he
his-
had read in the Vedic scriptures, and he was a real student of Ayurvedics. But he claimed that this was true, and I don't know. I took it to heart though, because
Yeah, you're right
I
in
really
between
respect
that.
this guy's knowledge and his wisdom, and he was just saying between 60 and 65 is very critical.
Are there any new things that you're doing as far as self-care, like all the stuff you've been talking about recently? Is there anything new you picked up in the last couple of years?
Especially during that time that you're talking
Yeah,
about. What do
'cause
you
you're
do to
right.
kind of,
Well, a lot of the Taoist yoga stuff is only about 2 years old.
Okay.
I was somewhat familiar with some of the exercises, Like, I knew about the juice of jade and the drums of heaven. That's where you stimulate the ears with the massage, and you stick your finger inside the ear canal and try to keep it open, because there's a tendency for it to narrow with age. And then you cover the ears, and you tap your fingers on the back of the skull where that little ridge is back there.
Okay.
You know, and it makes like a boom, but like this. It should echo like boom. You know you're doing it right if it echoes.
So you're tapping.
Very good for the hearing.
What's it called?
Drums of heaven.
Drums of heaven. And
Never
then
heard of that.
the Taoist eye exercise, where you're working all these pressure points here and here. So thumbs go to your temples. You take the first knuckle and you start here, and you work out along the eyebrow ridge, and then you start here, same point, and come underneath. Do that 8 times.
Wow.
Mm.
And then you blink 108 times. And then you focus on your thumb, and then you look 15 seconds, and then I look at a distant point for 15 seconds, bring it in 15 seconds, look at a distant point for 15 seconds, and it helps the eyes focus. And then, of course, the eye exercises, keeping the muscles limber and strong.
Yeah.
Circles, diagonals, up and down.
Do you use those, or have you ever used those little pinhole glasses?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You like those?
I used to watch TV with those. Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah,
you know who invented those?
No.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Did he really?
Really?
Yeah.
For what was? I mean,
Nearsightedness.
Really?
Yeah, he found that if you focus your vision on a little hole, that there's a tendency for the focus to clear.
And so it's an eye sort of strengthening thing, right?
It can be eye strengthening, and it's definitely a real boon if you got to read labels or whatever,
or even text on the computer, right? I mean,
yeah, they can be a real boon to people.
They
keep
say,
you that way you don't need reading glasses or anything. You just use your own power of focus.
Because I think when you're using your reading glasses, you're training your eyes to become more and more lazy and weak, right?
Yes.
And the idea of the pinhole is the exact opposite.
Yes.
So you're strengthening. You know, they say
Makes
too.
sense.
I've heard the rebounder, jumping up and down on the rebounder, helps strengthen the muscles
Optic
of the eye.
nerve or something?
You know,
or is it the
there's-
muscle?
Yeah, I could believe that.
Yeah, because
Well, I had bad eyes from the time I was a kid. Just kind of genetic. Plus, probably just some bad habits. Plus, I was quite the little sugar addict as a child.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, always looking for candy and sugar.
Yeah.
My mother's pretty good about not giving it to us, but we were pretty good at sneaking it too.
Yeah, man.
Busting in the cookie jar. And
Yeah.
I can remember taking the sugar bowl and sticking my tongue in it. Right? I know, filthy.
Yeah.
But they've shown that a high intake of sugar can create myopia in children. Been plenty of studies that correlate high sugar intake with nearsightedness. So I was nearsighted and had glasses by the time I was in 4th grade.
Really?
And the sad thing is I really wanted glasses because I thought it was cool.
You wanted it?
Yeah, I wanted glasses. I don't know why. I just thought it was so cool to have glasses. But what a pain.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So So do you still have glasses or no?
I got rid of them because the prescription was getting stronger and stronger. And I tried contacts, but it would just irritate the crap out of my eyes. So I just finally I read this book, Take Off Your Glasses and See.
Take off your glasses and see.
I forget the name of the guy that wrote it, but he was a disciple of the Bates method. But then he developed some of his own methods, and it's he claims that a lot of vision is psychosomatic, as a lot of problems in your body. It's kind of like your higher consciousness alerting you to life situations or ways of thinking that are incorrect.
Wow.
For example, the eyes. You don't really want to see what's out there, like nearsightedness. For whatever you don't like what you're seeing. At that time, my parents were going through a lot of stress and fighting, and
so it's like a deeper level.
I had some. In 3rd grade, I had a incredibly abusive, mean teacher who screamed at the children, and I was terrified of this woman. She would, if you couldn't find your pencil or art supply or a book, she would just take your desk and rip it and dump it all over the floor and just totally humiliate you.
3rd grade.
And I can remember just shaking in my shoes. And I didn't want to go to school. And I remember running out of the classroom totally in tears, humiliated. And she comes down the hall, get back here. and scream.
So you just took off and running.
Yeah, I just ran down. I just couldn't stand it. I was just so upset. And it was a very short time thereafter that I had to wear glasses. And I think it was because I just didn't want to see what was going on around me. It was just so traumatic to me that I started pulling my vision in. But all of the ailments, like, for example, stiff necks or sore neck, you're stubborn, you are threatened by other points of view or failure to see other points of view, fear of aging. Shoulders. You always hear the term shouldering responsibility. Yeah. Well, sore shoulders or achy shoulders have to do with either not handling your responsibilities or being burdened with too much responsibility or feel that a resentment of having to shoulder responsibilities. And this is subconscious, of course.
Well, yeah.
Carrying the weight of the world.
What was it? It was your back, right?
My lower back, yeah.
Lower back.
Your power?
Yeah. Part of that is creative self-expression.
Creative self-expression.
Yeah. Maybe you feel stymied, that you don't have a creative outlet of some type. Also, feeling a lack of support from other people.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
That is true.
I think a lot of people have that too.
Yeah. It's endemic in our society. People don't feel supported.
Yeah. A lot of judgment things.
A lot of judgmental things, Maybe your lifestyle wasn't approved by your family or whatever. Yeah. Or you feel a lack of support from other people, or maybe there's the naysayers who are totally steeped in Western medical philosophy.
Right.
That said, oh man, you're perpetrating all these frauds on people, and man, all the stuff you're talking about is complete bullshit, and it's scams, and I mean, all those thoughts could be going through your subconscious mind that would create the environment for lower back related pains and injury. A good source to learn more about this is Louise Hay.
We have her book.
Who's the Matter with Me? And she
You can heal your life.
You can heal your life.
The matter, yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of spiritual psychologists out there that the underlying cause isn't physical, but it's mental, emotional, and this is your higher mind trying to alert you to. And when you correct the action and make affirmations, sometimes the thing just goes away on its own. You don't even need physical treatments.
Well, I like what you're talking about. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I have to say I just totally agree with that, because I remember I was going through something about a year ago where I couldn't make a decision, and my right foot just started out of nowhere, just killing. It was hard to walk. I'd never had foot problems in my life. A couple months later, I decided to make this decision, and guess what? Within a week, foot pain gone. Sure. It was like I couldn't step forward. I couldn't move forward.
You couldn't move forward in life.
No.
Fear of moving forward in life.
It was bizarre, and that's the first real, I guess, concrete evidence I had seen in my own life of, my gosh, that was just popped up out of nowhere and went away out of nowhere.
I used to have terrible athlete's foot and real itchy, burny feet. It was a lack of understanding. Lack of compassion.
Oh my God.
Not looking at other people's points of view.
Did you know that at the time?
No, I learned it later.
You learned it later.
Knee problems, fear of moving forward in life, fear of aging.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I had, I was telling you, in Jiu-Jitsu, I ruptured and tore my ACL, which I haven't had surgery on yet. Thankfully, it's works, but I'm afraid to train with it because of, same with you, I don't want some guy passing guard on this side and that kind of thing. But and when I injured my back, I mean, I did have bad form when I was doing the exercise, but I suspect that this kind of stuff, this emotional, spiritual stuff, was there and caused some sort of weakness.
It was a message, and you can almost be grateful for it in a way, because now you can take corrective action. But all joints represent a fear of some type. And I've had plenty of joint injuries, so I'm not casting judgment. I'm just saying I can look back and say, almost every joint, and pain in itself is a form of punishment.
Like, so you're punishing yourself?
Yeah, you're guilty about something. You feel some type of deep-seated guilt about something. Only you would know for sure. But, even other stuff, like internal stuff, like most men suffer prostate problems, It comes from resentment and being pissed off.
Resentment and being pissed off.
Yeah. You have too much unforgiveness in your heart. When you start to love people and develop that inner love, and you forgive people and you don't hold grudges, you'll notice that a lot of the urination, frequent urination, burning, all that stuff just goes away, man. You start peeing like a kid again.
Isn't that, we all want that, don't we?
You know,
like a
and now you say this to the
like a
average doctor, they think
They
you're
think you're
freaking
crazy.
cuckoo.
Yeah.
But I tell you, it works, and I've experienced it.
There's something to
and
it.
hopefully your listeners are more enlightened than the typical Western medical model,
Yeah.
you know?
They seem to be.
Yeah, our listeners are really tuned into
They're
this
pretty
kind of
turned
stuff.
I mean, I'm not totally against modern medicine. I mean, when it comes to emergency
we're
medicine,
thankful for
like
it.
saving your life from a horrific accident
Yep.
or battlefield medicine, you know, you get wounded, man, they can do unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
Stitching you back together.
Putting your
but
arm
when
on,
it comes
yeah.
to health, preserving health, prevention of disease, or treating actual illness,
And
man, they are
chronic,
so lost. They're totally all wrapped up in the germ theory of disease.
Yeah.
And it shocks people to know that there's a lot of people that don't subscribe to the germ theory of disease.
You mean a lot of people from
There's a
other
bug
countries?
out there that's going to get you.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
everything's caused by a bug.
No, but
and it's
you-
out of your hands, and
But you're saying there's a lot of other people.
that do not subscribe to that notion.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Like us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because that, I mean, that disease or
We're
that,
not alone.
that way of looking at health and healing, it's just got dollar signs written all over. Because then you can start. I mean, it's just how could that have
the
not
medical
won?
drug industrial complex, man,
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar. I mean, think about flu vaccines.
Oh, yeah.
They scare the shit out of you. Oh, the bugs out there, they're going to get you.
Yeah, they're gonna
you
get
better
you.
get that vaccine.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and man, they found out that it was only like 25% effective. Like, what a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I know, right?
I haven't been sick in 35 years, man. Actually, that's not true. I got a cold 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Pretty bad little cold, but
Uh-huh.
I know why.
Well,
I
yeah.
innovated myself. I was overeating in Greece, and then I exposed myself in cold water 2 days in a row. I was mixing starches and proteins. I was
yeah.
overeating. My body was, my digestion was overtaxed. I was doing a training camp.
Stress.
A little stress.
Yeah.
Plus, I swam too long in this very frigid water.
Uh-huh.
And damn if I didn't get the cold from hell.
Really?
Yep.
How long did it last?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's a
And
long
I
time.
fasted,
Yeah.
but I lost a lot of weight, got pretty skinny. It was a little weak.
Do you do a lot of food combining, like you said, starches?
Very
and stuff?
strict, yeah.
You do.
Fruit-based meal,
Uh-huh.
starch-based meal, protein, vegetable-based meal.
I saw the other day you had.
And I'll mix those up. Like the other day, I had actually bacon and eggs for breakfast. That was my protein meal.
Okay.
Okay. Later, I had quinoa with a salad.
Okay. Starch.
And then that night, I had fresh berries and pineapple from Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And I had a little dairy with that.
Okay.
A little bit of dairy. I had some yogurt, sheep's milk yogurt with chia. I tolerate dairy pretty well.
Okay.
And I just felt like I wanted a little extra protein bump.
Okay.
Good for you.
And so that worked well with the berries?
Yeah, it works quite well. Certain dairy products can work with subacid fruits or acidic fruits.
Well, the Gracies have that whole.
Yeah, they
thing
have their
going.
whole
System.
food combining.
Yeah.
And there's different food combining systems, but they both basically if you want to look and correlate all, they all say the same thing. Don't eat starch and protein together.
Yeah, that's a
Like
general.
bread and meat,
Uh-huh.
rice and meat and potatoes, yams and meat. Keep the yam, squash, rice,
Separated.
grains separate. And almost all of them say don't eat more than one starch in a meal.
One
That's just because
type
of-
of starch.
Yeah, any kind of starch. It's just too delicious. You overeat. It's so easy to overeat starch
Okay.
because it's absolutely
Well, yeah.
delicious.
I mean,
So you find yourself like, oh, my belly, why did I eat all this? You don't get your taste become overstimulated with too much starch, and there's a real tendency to overeat. And with the fruit, it's kind of hard to overeat fruit.
yeah.
When we've separated them out, man, do we feel better?
You do.
We do.
We do.
We just feel better.
sometimes we. I mean, I've
Sometimes
heard
I'll
that.
mess up.
I mean, I've heard that the reason why a lot of people can't do it is mineral deficiency. They can't combine their foods. But I know that for me, combining it works. It works
I
well.
border
For you too.
Magic.
sometimes virtually almost like a mono diet.
Yeah.
Man, you really digest that food so well, and you assimilate all the nutrients from it, because we are basically digestive machines. Our whole body works on digestion. If your digestion is impaired from either overeating, and it overburdens the system, or you're just mixing too many foods in one meal, it's
yeah.
hard for the body to break this stuff down.
And it ages you too, right?
It causes premature aging. And, if you're getting any kind of gas, right, that's from fermentation and putrefaction in the gut, if people are having foul-smelling stools, if they're farting, burping, all this kind of stuff, it's obvious that their digestion is being overburdened, overtaxed, and you're basically poisoning yourself because those toxins are being absorbed through the gut lining into the bloodstream, causing inflammation and all sorts of stuff, man. So if you combine your foods and really chew it almost to liquid, pretty much, Yeah,
I saw the other day you were doing on your Facebook, you was just like us. It was so hilarious. I was laughing at the picture because you were in your hotel room eating
your rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, your rotisserie chicken and your vegetables and probably a Whole Foods. We do the exact same thing. It's so good. Those rotisserie chickens are amazing.
Aren't they though? It's so cheap, and you can get chickens all over the world.
Yeah,
that's a real easy one to find. Anywhere, any place you travel.
Yeah.
You can find a rotisserie chicken somewhere, man.
Yeah,
they're pretty popular.
We take the bones. Sometimes we'll do bone broth and stuff like that. We'll make those.
Yeah, I'll eat the bones if I can.
Yeah,
I certainly eat the ends of the bones, the cartilage, and I suck the marrow. And
I
eat a lot of it.
That's so cool. You're into some cool stuff.
Yeah, you are. You are.
You're into some really.
You learn
cool
over
stuff.
time, what works, what doesn't work. But it wasn't always that way. I mean, there was times when I wasn't quite as careful.
Yeah.
When you're young, you can pretty much eat rusty nails for breakfast and still
get away with
it. Get away with it, and you bounce back from injuries and
Yeah.
You can get away with overeating a little bit, But luckily, I never drank. I never used drugs until just recently. I started experimenting with a little THC.
That's right. I remember you talking about that.
I'm a child of the. I was born in the 50s, but I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, and that was like the height of,
And somehow you stayed away from it then.
And back then, I was kind of following the party line. Everyone was so alarmed about this marijuana.
Yeah.
These same people that were smoking cigarettes and drinking at their cocktail parties, right? The established drugs of choice, coffee, cigarettes, alcohol.
Yeah.
And they were so afraid of this new kid on the block, marijuana.
Yeah.
And we actually were shown that crazy movie, Reefer Madness. Have you ever seen this?
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah,
it was a propaganda film, an anti-propaganda film.
Funny to watch now.
And I believed all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a gateway drug, and I thought, oh, man, you're going to go to hell in a handbasket if you smoke that marijuana, and you dirty, filthy hippies. And,
you were shown that in school, I think you said, right?
Yeah. And I was like, rah, rah, USA.
Yeah.
Go get them, bomb the hell out of those people in Vietnam and all that crazy shit.
Yeah.
Because I came from a conservative background.
Yeah.
My town had the United States Army War College. It's a college where the brass from 3 of the major services go to become generals.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a college. So we had all these Army kids in school, and they were all my classmates and my wrestling buddies and my football buddies and
it's
stuff.
It's a very myopic sort of worldview, right?
Yeah, it was a little tiny town, with a strong military influence. All the kids went to the local high school. And so for that, I definitely had my very limited point of view. And so I didn't really experiment until I went to college, first time away from home and all that. And I tried it a couple times, and I hated it.
Smoking, or what was the...
Smoking. It just made my throat sore, and I kind of got headachy, and my nose would close up, and I never felt that high that everyone was supposed to feel, So
you just kind of felt messed up.
And I would go to the parties because I wanted to fit in desperately.
Yeah.
And so I got an empty Seagram's bottle, and I filled it with water, and then I put 2 drops of yellow food dye, so it looked like whiskey.
That's amazing.
And I carried it in a flask. I was like the cool guy with his own private flask, like a stash.
Yeah, man.
And then I would be sipping water while everyone was getting blind drunk and smoking marijuana.
Yeah.
And these were wrestlers and athletes. I wouldn't do it. I just took my wrestling that seriously.
And then, so what made you change your mind recently?
I just read an article in Outside Magazine by one of the leading triathletes. I forget this guy's name. He started experimenting with THC as a way of focus, for endurance sports. But it has some ramifications possibly for jiu-jitsu, because the other thing that used to kind of intrigue me was every Brazilian dude I knew, almost everyone was heavily into marijuana use after training.
Huh.
And I was thought,
what is that?
What is that? Why do these guys like the marijuana so much?
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. And I was thinking, and these are good athletes.
Yeah.
And they're really good. And they're getting stoned almost every night, And I don't know. I just couldn't get into it that much. But after reading that article in Outside Magazine about the use of THC, and of course it's becoming more and more legalized.
Right.
And then you read about some of the health benefits of using THC.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's becoming more well known.
Yeah. So I thought, well, why not try it and see? I heard about these vaporizers. They call it the vape.
Yeah.
And it looks like a little juice box with a straw.
Yeah.
And the vapor is way easier in your lungs than the smoke. Although it's still a little too hot searing for me, even the vape. So then I heard about eating it.
Yeah.
And then I had a mentor that was diagnosed with inoperable brain cancer.
Ooh.
And he was taking marijuana tea. Steeping it and drinking the tea
from the leaves. He just
from the leaves and getting THC that way.
Where was he living?
In Pennsylvania.
Is it how somehow he's able to get it or grow it or something?
I don't know how he got it. Anyone can get it. You can get marijuana anywhere, but you buy the marijuana and make his own tea.
Yeah,
and that was like one of many treatments. His brain cancer went away. He had a golf ball sized cyst in his brain. Went down to the size of a pea.
How much time?
Yeah, how much time?
It was a while. Oh, that's Teresa calling.
Oh,
wow.
Mind if I take this?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we'll just carry on.
It's
pretty crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Would you try it?
Oh, okay.
Would I try?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's an herb from. I feel like it's an herb from God or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the nature.
I know.
I mean, I just think we've all been completely programmed and manipulated in terms of this whole reefer madness and teaching just say no to drugs. And I mean,
we've heard.
No, go ahead.
We just heard too many stories with our guests talking about the medicinal, especially people in dire situations like that. Just the miracles this stuff can produce in people.
Think about all the indigenous peoples that have used all sorts of drugs in their spiritual ceremonies.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like psilocybin mushrooms,
right,
and ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, right?
And I mean,
these things are helpful.
I think people have used stimulants and herbs since time immemorial. And marijuana is not a new drug. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
People.
And I think maybe one of the reasons too that people are so afraid of it, or at least the established institution, is that it's so useful for so many different applications. You can make cement and all. It could have a really
they make clothes out of it.
Isn't it crazy?
It could have a deleterious effect on the financial outcomes from.
Possibly. You always have to start looking at what's behind the resistance. Someone's losing money.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, I'm sure the tobacco companies don't like people smoking marijuana. And I'm sure that the alcohol companies aren't real thrilled to have people getting high.
Yeah, because people will stop drinking.
They'd rather have them drink beer.
Have you heard of this, the Rick Simpson hemp oil stuff?
No, I haven't, but
he's doing this really...
Hemp oil.
So he's not making the hemp from the seeds or anything else, but he's taking the leaves and putting it in some sort of isopropyl alcohol and boiling it, and then he gets that substance, and it looks like it's just Coca-Cola afterwards, and then he boils that down and keeps boiling it down, and it ends up looking like.
So is THC in it?
Yeah, it looks like Marmite.
Mega.
What's that?
Super mega concentrated.
Yeah, and it looks like Marmite. It looks like black ketchup.
Well, what do you do with it then?
He puts it into a syringe, and he'll do like a little tiny bit on a cracker or something like that, and people will take that, and people have been having incredible success with cancer with that.
How long does it take to kick in? The THC?
I don't know.
We've had pretty high, I imagine.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different strains. What are the different strains of the leaves? I forget the types of.
Yeah, I don't know that much. I'm still a neophyte.
Yeah, but he's doing he lives in Canada now, and he got kicked out. The police are after him. We did a whole show with him, and it's called. He's got a documentary called "Run from the Cure," and people curing all kinds of stuff: Crohn's, colitis, cancer.
So what's the name of it again?
Run from the Cure.
And
Run from the Cure.
And
Rick Simpson. He's making special THC
hemp oil from the leaves themselves. And there's a special way that you have to make it so that if you don't get enough airflow through your kitchen, one little spark can sort of blow up your whole kitchen.
Oh, shit.
It's like this really...
Well, I could see that might be you want to buy it and not make it.
Yeah.
You have to do it really
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, man. But I mean, I think now with the legalization happening, at least in 3 states in the U.S., it's going to...
What's the third state? Colorado, Washington,
and California.
Is it California?
Yeah, right here. You can actually get a card and go to a medical marijuana place
dispensary.
right now and get your little treats.
Really? All right.
Yeah, it's one of the advantages of being here.
Yeah. I didn't know what the third state was.
This is where my tax home is, right? I pay California state tax and my income tax here, but I was thinking about going to Hawaii, but then you can't get the medical marijuana. And if you have a California driver's license and pay California state tax, you can have it shipped to other states legally.
Really?
Yes. Once you have that medical marijuana card.
I think the wall's going to start coming down on this thing.
I think it has to.
It has to.
It's kind of silly.
I mean, they have to figure out a way to tax it or get involved in the game.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
They'll figure out a way to make money on it.
Yeah.
Then they won't feel so
undermined.
Left out of the party.
Yeah, and then there'll be guys that make money growing it just like any other cash crop, like the tobacco people, like
make
everyone
a commodity.
Yep.
Yeah. All I know is it makes my digestion feel really good.
It did.
My vision clears.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I suspect that I might have like a pre-glaucoma.
And you got that, or you tried the
my
edibles?
vision gets cloudy sometimes. And I'm thinking, and when I smoke the marijuana, wow, that goes away, man.
Wow. For how long?
A few hours. But I don't smoke it that much.
Wow.
I've only just done it a few times with the vaporizer. But I'm afraid to travel with it, obviously.
Yeah.
So we leave our vape and any paraphernalia when we travel. Because, going through security. Oh, yeah. Can you imagine? My God, what a hassle.
It's already bad enough.
Yeah. Like Australia is pretty strict with their customs and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they have those little beagle dogs running around. And I have the global entry card. Okay. I did like the background check, the FBI background check, and TSA. And I got approved. So I just walk right through customs. Now imagine I got caught with that smell of marijuana.
Oh, man.
That kind of screwed my global entry up.
Yeah.
And, man, there's a huge penalty if you take advantage. Wow. So I'm not going to...
that's not worth it.
That. No way.
No, it's
Why
not
deal
worth
with that?
So, if I go to a place and I can find it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Here, no problem.
Do you prefer the edible stuff or the...
I haven't really tried the edible stuff. Joe Rogan gave me a whole bunch of it. Can't wait to try it.
No surprise there, yeah. So if you drive around with that stuff, what's the deal there? If a cop were to...
Here in California, there's no problem whatsoever.
Nothing.
So you can drive around with that?
Yeah.
No problem?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Do you have to prove something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting.
If he suspects you're impaired, you might have to do a
line test,
drunk test or something.
Yeah.
But
wow.
If he had probable cause to search your automobile, it's probably because you're driving like an idiot.
Yeah.
And why are you driving like an idiot? If you are impaired, then you shouldn't be on the road.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Common sense, people.
It's just like drinking and driving.
Right.
You don't go driving when you're high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although I talked to a couple people that do, and they said there was no problem, but I don't believe it. I don't know what the motor skills are.
Your reaction time.
Your reaction time. I just think it would be
asking for problems.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, if they're going to crack down on something, I'd rather them crack down on people using their cell phones while they're driving.
Well, that's way worse.
That's way worse, right?
It's virtually like being drunk, texting, and all that kind of stuff.
It's not
That's
good.
crazy,
so
right?
bad.
Hey, so before we leave, I want to let everyone know about stuff you got coming up.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you have the BJJ Surf Camp El Salvador.
In El Salvador, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lifestyle camp.
November 28th to December 1st, 2015.
Yeah, we have a couple spots left. I'm hoping you'll come down, man. You guys.
I would love to.
It's going to be doing joint mobility every day. I show preparation exercises, ways that you can prevent injuries, joint toughening. Of course, there will be actual jiu-jitsu, rolling, and also practicing, keeping it playful type jiu-jitsu called soft roll.
Yeah,
also,
that's what I need.
A lot of self-defense. A lot of guys have only been involved with the sport aspect of Brazilian jiu-jitsu and never saw just how effective it can be as a personal self-defense.
I mean, that's the whole reason why it was
invented, man.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's always the beautiful surf. They have fantastic surfing there. I'm not a surfer, but everyone says that it's some of the best surf in the world. There's
I'm a surfer.
Kayak.
So.
I will kayak. I do like to kayak, but there's board paddling or whatever.
And how long is it? How long is the whole thing?
A week.
A week.
Yeah,
It's going to be two different.
Shoot.
How fun!
That's so cool.
Yeah,
And
but I mean, people can come and go as they please. But the camp is going to be for a week.
That sounds like a lot of fun because I'm going to a chiropractor now. I'm doing some back strengthening things. I'm trying to get my back good, and
everyone gets a chance to roll with a black belt too. I'm going to have a couple.
Wow.
So as long as
high level black belts. So for a lot of the blue belts and purple belts that want to.
Well, I'd be a white belt.
That doesn't matter.
I was a blue belt at one point, but I don't consider myself a blue belt now.
Well, the knowledge is still there.
You're a
never
blue belt.
lose the knowledge.
If you're a white
so
belt,
if you're a blue belt, you're still a blue belt.
Yeah.
You might be a little rusty, but you still have the.
I just want to have fun.
You have the knowledge.
Yeah.
Love
it.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a good time, and
Sounds like a lot of fun.
How fun! And
I mean, it's about as much fun as you can have.
That is cool. That is really cool. So you're
rolling with your brothers in your pajamas, basically.
Yeah, trying to keep it fun, right?
Keeping it fun.
I love that.
It.
Yeah, people get so competitive. I got injured so many times.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is they don't tap.
Yeah.
They get stubborn.
Yeah.
It's foolish. If you get caught, you get caught.
Yeah, big deal.
If the guy knows what he's doing, you're going to get it. Even if you escape from a submission, you still get injured.
Yeah.
Better just to acknowledge that, I shouldn't be here in the first place. You tricked me. You got me in this submission.
Yeah.
Why not just acknowledge the trick?
Because you got yourself in. It's the position that's the problem that you let yourself get into.
Exactly.
And
you
so
made the mistake of getting in the submission hold.
You can power out of an arm bar.
But that's not a technique. That's just
technique.
pain threshold and strength.
Yeah. That's not.
And now if it's a competition, that's a different story. Maybe you would risk an injury, maybe not.
Well, your son is doing a competition, right? He's in Metamoris?
He was in Metamoris. He was in two of them.
He was in two of them?
Yeah, he did really, really well in both. Although he did tap to Gary Tonin in his last one. Gary Tonin's a killer submission wrestler guy. Unbelievable with those heel hooks and all that kind of stuff. And, it was like, wow. I asked Zach, I says, you don't train no-gi that much. So, you're not known for no-gi. He does gi. Why the hell do you pick a guy like him? I mean, for your first one? Wow. Could you have picked anyone tougher? He says, I just wanted the challenge to see how I do. And he did great, but, Gary's freaking phenomenal.
How old is Zach?
25.
Nice. Wow.
But you saw what Gary did with Kron. I mean, Kron's a beast.
Yeah.
Arguably one of the best in the world, and he just pulled it out in the last 10 seconds. That was an amazing match.
Those are fun to watch.
That was an amazing match. But it just goes to show you how tough Gary is. So on any given day, he'd tap anyone in the world. So kudos to Gary.
That's
I tell you, man, I won't want to train with him. Actually, he probably would train really nice.
Yeah.
With I just say, hey man, don't heel hook me, the old man. If you even,
I like my knees.
If you even get me in a heel hook, just consider it a tap.
And so you have the promo video for. I'm sorry. That's the promo video. So you're on your way down to the Strength Master Summit in San Diego, March 20th through 22nd.
Yeah,
so that's coming up tomorrow.
That's tomorrow. I'm giving a seminar tomorrow of bodyweight mobility conditioning, and then I'm the keynote speaker on Saturday. I'm going to talk about my first half century in the fitness game.
Really?
Half a century, more than half a century.
Wow.
Yeah.
How fun.
On the fitness game. So things I've learned over the decades.
Yeah, that's
I'll review the history and
will that be available for people that don't go to the summit?
I don't know.
I wonder if it'll be like an online thing too.
Question. I can't imagine they wouldn't record it.
You just show up and
I'm going to video it myself.
Oh, okay.
I have a videographer I brought in from Las Vegas.
Oh, right.
That guy Daniel I told you about.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Daniel Gutierrez. Amazing editor and filmer. So he's going to film it, and I want to release it on my side.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I mean, you know.
Hopefully they'll let you do that. That's awesome.
Yeah. You know, that's a good point. And better talk to the director of the thing. Make sure that's okay. But I also wanted to film my my mobility conditioning class as well.
Oh, cool. And you have the kettlebell 5-pillar workout system too on your site.
I just released that. Basically, people get really confused. What do I do? How do I organize the workout? You know, what exercises? Blah blah blah. Well, after you get the 5 pillars, your confusion will be ended. And the pillars meaning it's based on movements, as opposed to muscle groups.
Okay.
Movement-based exercise, and
Full
I have
body.
the 5 pillars of body weight training. So I did the 5 pillars of kettlebell training, and then this November I'm going to do the 5 pillars of barbell training.
Oh, really?
But once you understand how the pillar system works and the movements, you could swap body weight, barbell, kettlebell, and just make all these really cool hybrid workouts on your own.
Oh, that's cool.
But workout construction and design, it's very confusing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you put together a decent, balanced workout? Well, with the 5 pillars, all the guesswork is taken out of it.
That's awesome. And those are DVDs or online?
It's online video downloads.
So people can...
I realized early that DVDs are a real nuisance.
Yeah.
You got to have the physical DVD.
Send them to
and
people.
And then you got to mail it and shipping and...
We're beyond that.
Yeah,
We're
I mean,
beyond
it's even download's so clean.
That's so 2007.
You just download it on your computer, you own it, or your iPad or your iPhone.
Better
if you got it. And I also have a phone app with the bodyweight 5 pillars.
Oh, cool.
So
dude, you should do something with all these Taoist exercises you do and stuff like that. You should put together something for that. Because I would buy that.
Maybe, but I'm not. I mean, I don't
awesome.
consider myself an expert in these things, but maybe.
That would be cool. I think a lot of people. I don't know what your.
I can show them what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to do this. The disclaimer. Hey, look, man. These are just some things I picked up over the years.
Yeah.
It makes me feel great, and here I'm sharing it with you.
That would be.
And I just charge like $9 or $10 or something. And,
I do think people would really enjoy
But
that.
if people want to see what it is I'm up to,
I think that would be really.
I think
cool.
I personally feel like I get a lot of benefit. I really do. But I'm a little reluctant because I do not consider myself to be an expert in Taoist yoga by any stretch.
Yeah.
It's very complex.
Yeah.
Oh my God! When you read the Taoist text and you read about that stuff, it's like, holy shit! This is wow.
Yeah, it's a
and
lot to it.
The theory behind it, and
I can imagine.
Wow, it's pretty deep, man.
But maybe people would like just the the
simple
filter,
exercises
filtered through you. This is what I do, and
here's the simple exercises.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Here's what I do.
So people can get all this at maxwellsc.com, right?
That's correct.
And they can find out about
website.
the BJJ Surf Camp El Salvador. You said there's a couple more spots available?
Yeah, a couple more spots.
Nice.
My Greek camp, my Greek Odyssey camp in Ikaria, that's filled up. And I'm leaving from here to Maui, and my Maui lifestyle health camp is sold out.
Good for you.
I'm very blessed. That's next week.
But what is it? Like a Maui?
Oh, it's just all about. I showed some of the exercises we just talked about. I just haven't released them on a video download, but I teach people breath work, walking, breathing ladders, some of the Taoist and yoga exercises, vestibular reset, Zen running, all sorts of cool stuff. Time static contraction, body weight training.
You got to make
fun
videos.
stuff, man.
You got to put these together.
Yeah, I actually have Daniel with me, and he's going to put together some videos.
Good.
So I brought him in. I'm going to
Good.
put him to work.
Darn, he has to go to Hawaii, but he hates you for that.
Maui.
You going to Maui?
Yeah, Maui.
That'll be fun.
Man.
And then I'll get my jits on, going to Luis Herrera, master black belt under Hickson Gracie.
Oh, wow.
May have been one of Hickson's first black belts.
Really?
Yeah. Hickson made black belt. Lived with the master for 3 years, actually. I actually lived with Hickson.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Up in Pasadena or Los
Angeles? Torrance.
Yeah.
So Luis is like kind of like a little mini Hickson.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's really good, man.
You live with him for that long and you train with him.
No, I mean, he trained with the Gracie family, and he's been training jiu-jitsu since he's been a little kid.
That's
he's
so
pretty.
cool.
He's a great teacher. So
I think everybody should learn.
I love
martial
going to
arts.
him and being a student.
Yeah,
I'm just like one of the guys.
That's so fun.
I mean, sometimes we'll have like 8 black belts, 7 brown belts in one class, and
how fun!
The master will be teaching. And
how long have you had your black belt?
Since 2000.
Since 2000.
15 years.
So it took you 11 years to get it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long time. That's good.
It's about what it should be.
About average, yeah.
Yeah.
So you weren't like a BJ Penn in 4 years?
No.
Did he really?
I got my blue belt in about 6 months.
Oh, did you?
And I got my purple belt in a year and a half.
Oh,
okay. There I stayed.
Yeah, forever, huh?
For a long time, purple.
Yeah.
Then I finally won the Pan Ams and got my brown. And then I stayed brown belt forever, man. That brown belt was almost falling apart.
Really?
It literally started falling apart. I was afraid I was going to have to get a new one because it got so thin and worn. And it was kind of white underneath the brown.
Yeah.
And it was like turning white.
No more room for stripes? It was just...
Well, yeah, I had my 4 degrees and I was just waiting and waiting.
Yeah.
Finally, Helson made the award in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Really? Yeah, that's right. He's out in Hawaii, isn't he?
So that was interesting.
That's so cool. 2000?
Yeah, I was his first American black belt ever.
Really?
Yeah. One of the first of the Gracie black belts in America. There had been some people who gone for the Machados and so forth, but the Gracies had not awarded that many black belts. So I was one of the very first to get it directly from the sons of Elio Gracie.
That was kind of their thing for a
while.
They
were pretty picky.
They didn't, yeah.
So I felt pretty honored.
Yeah.
And I had trained with all the brothers. Started with Horian and Hoyce and Hoyler and Hickson. Then it's pretty much Horian and Hoyce. And then later Helson.
Does Horian still train?
I don't know.
But he's
definitely a master teacher.
Oh,
probably one of the greatest teachers I have ever met in any discipline.
I remember watching all of his Gracie or not in action, but what are those Gracie basics?
Yeah, the Gracie basics.
Yeah.
Fantastic teacher.
Yeah. Red belt now, right?
Seminars are unbelievable. Yeah, coral belt.
Yeah. Is that what they call coral belt?
Yeah, coral.
Oh, okay. Wow. Amazing guy.
Yeah.
And he's I know his sons are running that center, the
Hiron, Henner, Halleck. There's another son, Halen.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much. I don't know what happened to Halen, but the Henner and Hiron do most of the videotapes.
Yeah.
Freaking great, man.
Aren't they great? Yeah.
Aren't they fun? I love the fight breakdowns and stuff.
Oh, those are great.
Like they'll show a street fight.
Yeah.
And all the crazy stuff. They'll take it step by step.
They're really good.
They're very good.
Yeah, they're great on camera.
They're totally into the keep it playful.
Yeah.
And I enjoy watching their videos very much.
Yeah. They're great. Great on camera.
They're continuing the tradition.
Yeah.
Of the original Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, self-defense, cool. And
I wish they were up the street. That'd be awesome.
I know.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. Mm-hmm. There is a place right up the street.
There is, right on the corner.
Yeah. All right, I think we should wrap it up. We've gone for 2 hours and 15 minutes.
You're probably starving.
We got to get you to San
Diego. I'm going to feed you.
Hungry,
You're going to fall over.
I think Teresa's on her way back. She texted me that
you're
she was
kidding.
coming.
Is she on her way back?
Yeah. I think she just got done early, picked up Daniel.
Perfect.
So
okay,
save you guys that hour drive, man.
Well, we're more than willing to do it. So
yeah. I felt like, wow, I was a big imposition. But
no, gosh, no. We'll buy you some paleo style food instead.
All right, man.
How about that?
Well, thanks.
Well, it was fun, man.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Fun.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you, Mr.
Awesome.
Steve Maxwell.
Really fun.
All right, everybody. I just want to let you know, I didn't even really officially introduce the show, actually, at the beginning, because we just started talking, but this is episode 368. So everything that Steve talked about, all different links and things like that, we'll put on extremehealthradio.com/368. And
I made a bunch of notes.
Yeah, Kate's got a whole ton of notes there. So we'll put all of that. And another thing, too, if you guys would like to support us, we've just sort of joined forces with a really great website called Patreon. It's pretty cool. A lot of podcasters and people are doing this. You can support us on a per podcast basis. So people can donate 25 cents, $1, $5, $20 per podcast. And so if you have it within your budget to do that, we'd be really appreciative of that. And you can sign up through your Facebook account. We just learned the other day.
That's an easy way to do it.
So you could just, if you're logged into Facebook, you can create a Patreon account really quick. So if you want to do that, it's at extremehealthradio.com/support, SUPPORT, and you can support us that way.
We're so grateful, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And this is episode 368. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey everybody, this is Josie, Justin's mum. Don't tell him, but I know he would absolutely be really happy if you would sign up to his free weekly newsletter. And don't forget to share this with all your friends. This is the buzzing bumblebee signing off.
That's so good.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek